Coming down, and so we'll go ahead and call to order. Hold on, if we could get everybody's attention, and we'll go ahead and get started. We'll call the February 26, 2026. That's some words. 0226-2026. Wow. February 26, here we go. Metropolitan Planning Commission is called to order, and so Commissioners, you had the agenda sent out earlier, and so is there a motion to adopt the agenda? There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the agenda is adopted. Next is item C, which is the approval of the February 12th, 2026 minutes. And that was sent out earlier too. Is there a motion to adopt? There's a motion and a second. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and the minutes are adopted. And so now we are on to item D, which is still a relatively new rule for us, and that's the public comment period for things that are not on the public hearing tonight. And so, Lisa, why don't you go over that real quick and remind the commissioners and the viewing public about this rule.
Certainly. So the state has passed legislation that requires that before any meeting of a public body such as this, that there be an opportunity for members of the public to speak to items on the agenda. That is normally not an issue for us, as almost all of your items that appear regularly on your agendas have a Planning Commission rule required public hearing. This time at the beginning of the meeting is for items that don't have a rule required public hearing or where that public hearing has been held and closed. And so there's 20 minutes set aside at the beginning of the meeting. Each speaker can have 2 minutes. We ask them to sign up in advance. And so this is to meet the state law regulation to allow people to speak on any item on the agenda.
Thank you, Lisa. And I have the trustee sign-up sheet, and so we have 4 speakers on here, and we'll just go in the order that folks signed up. And so the first would be Elliot Perry. Come on up and state your name and which item you're here for. You have 2 minutes, and then the timer is right there. We appreciate you coming down. Oh, hold on one second. Let's get your mic on for the record. People can hear you. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm here to speak on items 3 and 4 on the agenda. The commercial overlay on Buchanan Street. I think it's important to acknowledge what we heard a month ago, that neighborhood has been challenged time and time again by the city. And we should be very careful in our planning to not pile on to that as we move forward in the growth of our communities. Also, I live there. I hear the noise that's coming off that street. So it's not lost on me where these complaints are coming from the neighborhood. I'm here to ask you about policy and if an overlay is the right tool to manage noise and activity and late night regulation that we already have in place in the city. What we're looking at with this overlay is community members who are rightfully frustrated, taking the property rights from other neighbors simply because they're frustrated. I don't know if that's the right way to operate our city. There are mechanisms we have in place. We have enforcement, we have noise ordinances. We're just not using them well enough. So I'm here to encourage you to look beyond this overlay and look more towards enforcement to resolve these issues. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming down. Next on our list is Tequila Johnson. Welcome. Come on up.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm here again to speak against this overlay. I am a resident property owner. I live on 12th North, right on the connector of Buchanan Street. And this has been probably one of the most tense moments in our community. There are people who don't want this ordinance, and there are people who are, I would argue, not speaking for this ordinance, but speaking for change in the community. There are issues with 1 or 2 businesses that people want to see regulated, such as noise and parking. And my question is, does this overlay resolve that issue? Especially considering that those businesses will be grandfathered in. Does this solve that issue? Or is this a target towards 1 or 2 business owners? And I would, after extensive stakeholder engagement, Oh, so much work, so many conversations say the latter. This ordinance has changed 6 or 7 times. I am someone who reads policy for a living. I'm a registered lobbyist at the state and local level, and I cannot tell you what this ordinance does or does not do or what is in it. I have attended every community meeting besides the one that the councilman had because I was out of town. I have had conversations with everyone, and there is not a consensus from residents that this is what we need. No one has taken the time to ask the residents of North Nashville what we actually want. We're just seeing things being put in place that are telling us what we don't want or how to solve for what we don't want. And so I am here to urge you all to recommend to the city council that they do not pass this because people are watching. And people are going to remember the names of the planning commission, and people are going to remember the names of the councilmen, because I'm going to make sure that they do. And so I just hope that you all do the right thing.
Thank you, ma'am. Next. So, I'm trying to read all the names. This is Valerie Lopez, is that correct? All right. Thank you for coming down.
Thank you. It's Valeria. But
Valeria,
I'm
there,
not-
see that, I missed there's a
I'm-
missing letter in here.
I'm
Thank
not-
you very much.
I'm not technical. I just want to thank you all once again for opening the floor and allowing us to speak. I know that we took quite a few minutes at your last session. I'm a Nashville native. North Nashville was my family's, I guess some would say, stomping ground. Where I currently reside on Buchanan Street was formerly my uncle's dry cleaners for over 40 years. I'm not the owner, I am a tenant. And I have an event space there. I have a second space in the back of my building that I'm still currently trying to figure out my build on. I have not moved forward with that portion of it. I am here against the overlay. And the reason why I'm against the overlay is not because I do not think that we need some changes. Absolutely, everybody needs some changes, and from time to time when restraints are not put in place, and per se, I feel the city has not done their due diligence. There are noise ordinances that can be put in place for certain type of establishments that, quote unquote, I keep hearing that is the problem. I've attended the meeting here, I attended the meeting last week, and from what I heard from the few residents that were against, they kept speaking about certain businesses or certain business and the noise or trash or having to stay up late at night. And what I want to say is this actual overlay will not address that. Those businesses will still be there. They are quote unquote grandfathered in. They're not going anywhere. They still have leases, 8, 10 years. So what is this overlay going to do for these residents that are quote unquote for the overlay? Nothing today, nothing tomorrow, nothing when homecoming comes back.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, Juan Vega Romero.
Good evening. My name is Juan Vega Romero. I own the loading dock on Buchanan Street. I just came to speak out for this overlay. The vision behind it is to secure the future of the Buchanan Street corridor, just like you do in every other city, to make sure that residential areas are protected, that people can buy there knowing that in the future, the types of businesses that will be there, they'll be able to walk their kids to school. There are several of them within walking distance of Buchanan Street where you can literally throw a stone from our building to Jones Padilla across the street. Several folks come in and get a hot chocolate on their way to work or on their way to school in the morning every day. And at the community meeting on Saturday, the vast majority of both business owners and residents that spoke all seemed to be for it and for what it was doing and protecting the future of the neighborhood and making sure that the growth there was family-oriented and resident-driven. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. And so that finishes up everyone that has signed up on our list. Hold on one second. So there are a few folks, this particular rule does state that you have to sign up 30 minutes ahead of time, but I feel like the Planning Commission, we always really try to, if you come to speak, we want you to speak. We have 20 minutes, commissioners, and so a few folks, I believe, came in and want to speak, and so if it's without objection, unless there's an objection, we can allow the other. Is anyone else wishing to speak? All right, come on up, and you have 2 minutes, and then please state your name for the record.
Chair, I might suggest if Ms. Milligan, the hard rule is the 20 minutes, and are we within the 20-minute time frame? Yes.
We are. We still have 10 minutes and 38 seconds.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Willie Myers. I own a property at 2203 Buchanan Street. I am an owner who is in need of tenants. My building is located not in the area where I understand the problems that generated this whole action are located, but yet and still I feel as if I am affected. I oppose the pending proposition before you because I need to be able to invite in as many business owners and future entrepreneurs who can come in, establish much-needed businesses, bring in much-needed traffic, and help us recover this area and to build this area into what it needs to be. Property taxes are astoundingly high in this city to many people. You read the press just as I do. We don't need any type of activity or item to help prevent us from establishing our businesses. Much of what this matter concerns already is enshrined in local legislation and law, and I see no need to establish new rules and regulations which could drive new entrepreneurs from the area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome. Come on up. Just make sure y'all state your name because we can get it on the record.
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Jordan Harris, and I am an investor on Buchanan Street. I own the property at 1410 Buchanan Street, and I'm actively working to develop it. I know there's not many developments that have been coming to the street of late, and for me, I'm concerned about the overlay because I need new businesses to have as low a barrier of entry to arrive into the neighborhood as possible because we need traffic. I own a bookstore on Jefferson Street. We've been there 40 years, and I'm challenged with my business because there is not a lot of new retail development in the area. And I think the barriers of entry for small business are high, and this overlay will reduce the ability for businesses to try to come because there's more red tape for them to solve on. With my project, I'm having to review the overlay for, even though I'm opening a restaurant and not expecting to open a nightclub or a bar, the implications on how to make sure that I don't get classified incorrectly are high, and driving up my expenses as far as legal, getting legal advice to make sure that I'm compliant is an additional red tape and hurdle for me. It's right now in Nashville, if you take a compass and see from Broadway what all the neighborhoods are like that are equidistant from Buchanan Street, you see that the level of development is significantly higher than what Buchanan Street currently has. And so that market pressure is coming to this area because Nashville's success is expanding out from Broadway. So the ability for a short-term overlay like this to prevent that seems low, but it really seems like it increases the ability for well-capitalized, out-of-town business to be able to take advantage of temporarily depressed prices from this overlay to do something that isn't in the benefit of local residents and new startup businesses. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Business Partner, I'll give him my time if he wanted to continue.
And this is my business partner, Sean Harmon, who's also opening up a business with us. We really want to be pro-business in the neighborhood, and we don't want to reduce opportunity in a short-sighted manner. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Welcome.
Good afternoon. My name is Larissa Moreno. I am a renter at 1805 Cephas, which is right next door to where they've just started breaking down, where they're going to be having this overlay. I've lived in Nashville 8 years, and I'm on my own doing what I can to be successful here. And the one thing that has drawn me to Nashville, first it was East Nashville, now it's Buchanan, is the heart that's behind it. This overlay that is on the docket is going to, as it's been said, limit access for anybody local that's wanting to start their own business or that's wanting to try to grow something new, because it is going to give access to other larger companies that are looking at all of the income from Broadway and tourism. Additionally, if you're not familiar with the area, you should check it out. Loading Dock is pretty awesome. Sift is a new bakery. It's pretty awesome. Everybody loves Cinnamon Huskies. But when Minerva was there, which was a club, I would go to sleep, and I worked 9 to 5 at Delgado Guitars, which is another small business located in East Nashville. When Minerva was at capacity, I had a glass of water rattle off of my bedside table at 11 at night. That is how loud it was, and that was not next door. This building is on the other side of my window, and if they put in a nightclub, it's going to severely limit not just the capacity that I'm able to do my job, but even enjoy myself in my own home, want to listen to my own music or even play my piano or upright bass. So please do keep that in mind, that while it could look like a bunch of money coming in, it's going to be strangling the people that actually live there. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, and so that finishes item D, the public comment period for things that are not on the public hearing. Thank you, everybody, for coming down and speaking. Next, we have the recognition, item E, which is the recognition of the council members, and we always take the council members as we see you all come in. And so, Councilmember Evans, do you want to? No problem. We'll do that, no problem. Councilmember Huffman with the snazzy jacket.
Thank you, Chair Atkins, and thank y'all. Appreciate the commission very much. Your job is not easy, and I appreciate it. Just real quick, I've got an item 12A on your agenda. It's a rezoning of a property at 5309 Weber Road. This is a project that I think provides a lot of vitality for the community of Hermitage. Right now, it's a vacant lot with an abandoned house that consistently gets broken into. This project provides new life to this one, and it's at the corner of a really important intersection, right at the corner of Andrew Jackson Parkway. We are roughly about one city block away from Tyler, which in turn has a middle school and an elementary school. We have had 2 community meetings on this particular project in the community, one in January with a small group of neighbors, a couple who you will hear from tonight. And we also had one just a few weeks ago. We feel that this does fit the character of what Hermitage is looking for. And also, and most importantly, this fits the need for the missing middle housing that we all know that we need in the form of that. So it's a small bite out of the apple, but I definitely think that it's a good one. So I ask for your support for this tonight, and thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. Councilman Taylor, do you want to go now or wait? Okay. Thank you, Councilman. Councilmember Benedict, welcome.
already on? Yes, okay. Good afternoon. Thank you all for your service as always. I'm here for item 10. This is a text amendment relative to DADUs. It is Councilmember Parker's, but I saw it and I'm excited about it and I've signed on to it. So the council office has that co-sponsorship of it. This is one where the staff analysis is spot on with what, I think the importance of it, which is that, sorry, I was ready for you and now I'm not ready for you. The big thing is that there's places where I may, somebody on Riverside Drive in Inglewood, for instance, has a parcel that's 9,000 square feet, but it's zoned R10, and they cannot do a DADU on that lot. So this is going to allow them to build a DADU, which is the type of infill housing that the Unified Housing Strategy tells us that we need to build. It's still going to be restricted to the DADU limits that we have. It has to be subordinate to the main house, and it cannot be larger than 850 square feet. So it's going to give us that type of infill housing product that we need to build to make it, more affordable housing for people. This is one of those. It's kind of an issue where we should be able to do this based on the lot size, but it's not going to change the setbacks. It's going to be compatible with things. It's just that square footage issue is going to correct that. So I ask for your approval for that one. There is also one, I don't know the number of it, but it's a subdivision in District 7. And as I understand it from Mr. Withers, this is, it's number 15. I'm supportive of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Appreciate y'all coming down. And I didn't see any other council members. I want to make sure we don't miss any. All right, seeing no other council members, we'll go ahead and do item F, which is items for deferral or withdrawal. Andy.
Thank you. Starting on page 3 of your agenda, item number 1, 2025 SP 048001, New Hope Gardens SP. Staff recommends deferral to the March 12th Planning Commission meeting. On page 4 of your agenda, item number 5, 2025 S 145001, re-subdivision of part of Lot 40, Plan of Clifton. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 12th meeting. Item number 6, 2026 S 016001, Jenkins Landing subdivision. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 12th meeting. On page 5 of your agenda, item number 8, 2025 Z 109 PR 001. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 26th meeting. On page 6 of your agenda, item number 14, 2025 S 203001, Harpeth Overlook Phase 2. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 12th meeting. On page 7 of your agenda, item number 16, 2026 S 034001, Pulliam Subdivision. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 12th meeting. Item number 17, 2026 S 037001, Cali Subdivision Phase 2. Staff recommendation is to defer to the March 12th meeting. And those are the items for deferral.
And Andy, what about, I didn't think I heard item number 9. Was item number 9? Just want to make sure we get.
Item number 9 will be presented.
Okay, perfect.
It's a text amendment, so
Oh,
we are
yeah.
recommending deferral, but we will present it.
Got it. Sorry. Perfect. Thank you. Andy. See, you all keeping me straight. It's good. So commissioners, Andy, make sure I get these correct. So the items for deferral, excuse me, or withdrawal are the following. Items 1, 5, 6, 8, 14, 16, and 17. Is that correct?
That's correct.
All right, commissioners, you've heard the items for deferral or withdrawal. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and those items are deferred or withdrawn. Now we're on to item G, which is the consent agenda. Andy?
Okay, I will read through the items on the tentative consent agenda and ask if anyone is here in opposition. If so, please raise your hand, and if there is someone in opposition, the item will be presented. If no one is in opposition to the item, it will be placed on the consent agenda. As information for our audience, if you are not satisfied with the decision made by the Planning Commission today, you may appeal the decision by petitioning for a writ of cert with the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court. Your appeal must be filed within 60 days of the date of the entry of the Planning Commission's decision. To ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met, please be advised that you should contact independent legal counsel. So now I'm going to read through the consent agenda. On page 4, item number 2, 2026 SP 002-001, 3033, 3221, and 3255 Melvin Road. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? I know we have opposition, but I'm not sure. Is anyone raising their hand? Yes. Okay, there is someone in the back. This item will be placed on the agenda to be heard. Items number 3 and 4 will have a presentation. On page 5 of your agenda, item number 7, 154-73P-002, Hermitage Woods Amendment. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? Okay, this item will be placed on the agenda to be heard. Items number 9 and 10 will have a presentation, will be heard. Item number 11, 2026 SP 010-001, 100 Taylor Street. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. On page 6 of your agenda, items 12A, 2026 SP 014-001, 5309 Weber Road. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? This item will be placed on the agenda to be heard. Item 12B goes along with that one, so that one will also be heard. Item number 13, 2026 NL-001-001, 3700 Old Clarksville Pike. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. Item number 15, 2026 S-029-001, M.N. Young's Inglewood Annex Resub Lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? This item will be placed on the consent agenda. Item number 18 will be heard, will be presented. Item number 19 on page 7, 2026 Z-015PR-001. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? This item will be placed on the agenda to be heard. And item number 20, 2026 Z-016PR-001. Is anyone here in opposition to this item? Item 20 will be placed on the consent agenda. Now I will read through. Did you want to confirm the items before I read through them? No, you read. I read through them first. Okay. I will read through with the full information. So on the consent agenda, we have on page 5, item number 11, 2026 SP-010-001, 100 Taylor Street, a request to rezone from IG to SP zoning for property located at 100 Taylor Street to permit a mixed-use development. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. On page 6, item number 13, 2026 NL-001-001, 3700 Old Clarksville Pike, a request to apply a neighborhood landmark overlay district on property located at 3700 Old Clarksville Pike. to permit medical office, general office, and residential use within an existing structure. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, including the updated conditions in the memo that was distributed to the Planning Commission this evening. Item number 15, 2026S-029-001, MN Young's Inglewood Annex Resub Lots 1, 2, 3, and 4. A request for final plat approval to create one lot on property located at 3902A Catherine Street. Staff recommendation is to approve with conditions, including conditions in the updated memo distributed to the Planning Commission this evening and including exceptions to section 3-5.2. On page 7 of the agenda, item number 20, 2026Z-016PR-001, a request to rezone from RS5 to MUNA-NS zoning for properties located at 1304 and 1306 Jones Avenue. Staff recommendation is to approve. Oh, and under other business, item number 24, to accept the director's report and approve administrative items. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. And so, commissioners and Andy, make sure I get these correct. The following items will be on the consent agenda and passed all at the same time, and that includes item 11, 13, 15, 20, and 24. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right, commissioners, you've heard the items for passing on the consent agenda. Is there a motion? There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and those items are passed. So that, commissioners, that leads us to having 9 items to be considered tonight. Some we've closed the public hearing, as you know, and some we have not. So we are on item H, the following items to be heard. But before we do that, just a reminder, this is probably out of order, but the soccer season has started in Nashville, Tennessee. NSC, Nashville Soccer Club, I hope you all go to the games. We concluded the Olympics. Americans did great. It was fun to watch. I know that's out of order, Vice Chair. But as far as the Planning Commission is concerned, just really briefly, many of you may have been here before, and so how we do the public hearing is first we'll hear the presentation from the staff. We'll open the public hearing. The applicant will have 8 minutes to speak, and they can save 2 of the 8 minutes for rebuttal. And then anyone wishing to speak, we'll line everybody up behind the podium, and you'll get 2 minutes to speak. You have to state your name, then the rebuttal, then the council member, and then we'll close the public hearing, and then we'll deliberate that amongst the commissioners. So I always try to explain how the process works. We appreciate everybody coming down here. I know many of you, I see several familiar faces that we see down here, and so we do really appreciate it. As you know, all of the commissioners are volunteers. They love the city. We love the city, and so we're here just trying to do the right thing. And I know that sometimes it can get controversial. We do our best, and we try to, like I said, I know the commissioners love our city. All right, so let's get started. Item number 2. Oh, yes, Vice Chair, that's good. That's a very good point. So we are hearing the following items. Items number 2, 3, 4, 7, 9, 10, 12A, 12B, 18, and 19. Thank you, Vice Chair. Very good reminder. Item number 2.
Hi, Commissioners. Can you hear me okay? Okay. I'm presenting item 2, case number 2026 SP002001. This is a request to rezone from RS15 and RS80 to SP to permit 164 single-family residential lots. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. The site comprises several parcels, about 50 acres located on the east side of North New Hope Road. It's currently split zoned with RS 15 zoning located on the front half of the site and RS 80 zoning on the back half of the site. The site borders Wilson County. There's the northeastern sort of triangle there is within Wilson County. The surrounding parcels are zoned RS 15, RS 80. There are also some SPs in the area with subdivided lots. And the site fronts the east side of North New Hope, which is a collector avenue on the Major and Collector Street plan. The plan is on the screen. It includes 164 single-family residential lots with a minimum lot size of 6,300 square feet. The lot sizes range, they go up to 7, 8, 9, 10,000 square feet with 6,300 as the smallest lot. It proposes approximately 15 acres of open space, or roughly 30% of the site, which includes about 8 acres to be retained as natural open areas, which would be retained from any disturbance. These areas include primarily mature trees and stream buffer areas throughout the site. All of the lots would front new public streets, and the street network includes some street extensions to neighboring developments, which are indicated by the red arrows on the site plan on the screen. The plan also includes architectural standards, including glazing requirements and height requirements for the future units. There are also landscape buffers surrounding the perimeter of the site as well. The site is located in the Suburban Neighborhood Evolving Policies and Conservation Policies. Neighborhood Evolving generally provides opportunities for housing diversity and improved connectivity, and the conservation policy of the site identifies, like I mentioned before, some streams and stream buffer areas, as well as some areas of steeper slopes. Reviewing the plan against the neighborhood evolving and conservation policies, staff found that the plan incorporates several characteristics of the policies. It provides for a suburban development pattern with a similar density to the developments surrounding the site. It also provides for opportunities for future connectivity through several street extensions. With regards to conservation and open space, the plan sets aside approximately 30% as open space, and it also prioritizes areas to be preserved from future disturbance. Again, primarily areas with stream buffer areas, and areas with mature vegetation on site. The plan's bulk, massing, height, and architectural standards also provide development that's consistent with the suburban development form, and therefore staff recommends approval with conditions and disapprove without all conditions.
Thank you. And so, commissioners, we'll open this item for public hearing. And is the applicant? Come on up. Welcome. State your name, and you have 8 minutes, and you can save 2 of the 8 minutes for rebuttal.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Nick Goodrich with Dewey Engineering here in Nashville. As staff mentioned, we are proposing 164 lots on 50 acres, and that proposal includes a variety of conserved open space, an amenity center, off-site traffic improvements, on-site and off-site traffic calming measures, as well as significant off-site sewer improvements. With this SP, we're hoping to accomplish a more obtainable product than what RS-15 zoning can typically accomplish. And so we are proposing, the RS-15 developments surrounding zonings along North New Hope, there's several developments over that density already through a variety of PUDs and SPs. And for example, we are less dense than Farmingham, Overlook, Chesney Glen, and Wembley Park. And so we're matching an existing development pattern in the area. And the only new built RS-15 development is Aaron's Crest, which is kind of there to the southwest. And if you look on Metro's parcel viewer, those houses are appraising for around $800,000. So simply put, RS-15 zoning is no longer obtainable housing in Hermitage. And, so especially with the off-site improvements that are necessary in the area. We do understand the community has concerns about kind of off-site infrastructure. And so with the traffic in the area, we are proposing a turn lane into our development with an previous SP out on Central Pike. That SP guaranteed a traffic signal at North New Hope and Central Pike that Beazer promised there. We are also proposing $30,000 in off-site traffic calming measures for the Overlook and Aaron's Crest neighborhoods. And NDOT has also requested we provide internal traffic calming measures, which we are agreeable to as well. Some of the neighbors also had concerns about kind of buffering and tree preservation. And so staff and Councilperson Evans asked us to move the kind of conservation space towards Aaron's Crest and towards the properties along North New Hope that are kind of less dense than what we are proposing. So there will be, an existing vegetation as much as possible preserved in those areas. With that said, kind of, I guess in conclusion, this SP allows us to guarantee mature vegetation stays in the area. This SP allows us to disconnect a stub road to Aaron's Crest that would be required if this was a straight zone subdivision. This SP allows us to match existing neighborhoods that are along North New Hope already. And this SP provides an obtainable product for the residents of Hermitage. With that said, we'd appreciate your support and thank you for your time.
Thank you, and we'll save 2 minutes for rebuttal. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak? And so we used to do fors and against, but now we combine everybody. So is there anyone wishing to speak on this project? Come on up. Welcome, and you have 2 minutes, and please state your name for the record.
Okay, my name is Alan Brown. I live on North New Hope Road back the other end. We would be opposed to this mainly just because of the number of subdivisions and developments that we already have dumping out on North New Hope Road. There's about 7 of them now. North New Hope Road is only 1.1 miles long, so it's a lot of traffic. I realize that there are some traffic lights proposed at the end of both North New Hope and South New Hope Road. I think that would probably help. I think it may cause issues at the other end, which is not too far from here, which would be Old Lebanon Dirt Road and North New Hope Road. It's a 2-lane road. People drive way too fast on it. There is a really bad curve on it just past this. And unfortunately, there's a development that's put a entrance into a development right on that curve, which is probably not the greatest idea anyway. But I'm just really concerned with the number of houses, and even though they're going to empty some of this going over into Aaron's Crest opens up right onto North New Hope Road. There's no other way into either of these places except through North New Hope Road. So that's the reason that we would be opposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Come on up. If everybody would try to line up, that way we can get you. Thank you very much.
I'm the other half to him, Roberta Brown.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
3/4 probably. You're the other 3/4 probably. I'm just kidding.
As of right now, we have 42 units up at Hope Valley Way. 6114, which was deferred, they're wanting to put 40 some odd units there, which backs up right to our property. Don't know what's going to happen there. 37 houses coming off of Myra. 247 houses that are apparently connecting into Evans Hill from Valley Grove. Evans Hill has 248 houses now. On to Signer, 17 houses. 166 houses from Farmingham Woods. Wembley Park, 54. Chesney Glen, 147. I don't know the name of the one. It's up there on the corner, Lennar Homes, 11 houses. New Hope Meadows, 146. Cobblestone, and this is only the Davidson County side. It's 55 houses. Aaron Crest, the newest one. We have 67 houses, and the Overlook phase of Aaron's Crest is going to have 123 houses. Of course, some of these houses, these subdivisions, can go out on different places. Central Pike, Old Lebanon Dirt Road. But we have learned since the 2010 and the 2020 tornado that our road is a main cut through. And when things go to hell in a handbasket, everything dumps on ours. If anything else happens, we are not only going to have our regular traffic, but we're going to have everything else that's going to come off. Now they're proposing 154 some odd houses. And Aaron's Crest was supposed to have an in and exit out on Central Pike years ago. Never happened. What are we going to do?
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate you coming down. Anyone else? Come on up. Welcome.
Hi, Henry Nalgin. I live in Aaron's Crest, and I already have Beazer homes right back to my backyard. There was no buffer built in when they originally did that subdivision, the overlook. And now on Central Pike, we've got massive developments going on. We've got a housing complex going up. Getting to the highway these days can take 20, 30 minutes from a mile and a half away from the highway. We're a one-lane road on Central Pike going to the highway. Traffic in the morning is backing up further and further. Now we're adding thousands of homes in this one little area. It's not sustainable. We need at least a two-lane road. If you're going to keep building this many homes in our area, you got to do the infrastructure. We have no infrastructure in our area. Central Pike is not built for what's going on, and North New Hope definitely is not built for what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, 2-minute rebuttal. And then council.
So I guess to the traffic, we are working to do the best we can. You know, we're a single development. We can't solve all the Central Pike issues, but we've worked on many projects along Central Pike, and with each one of those comes a turn lane being proposed on the Central Pike at least. There's been multiple traffic signals, and all of these Central Pike improvements that have happened in the last few years have all been funded by private development. And so I guess that would be my rebuttal to this, is we're providing incremental improvements as we develop this area. Staff may be able to talk to this more. It's my understanding there is still a proposed connection to Central Pike from Overlook. Maybe Councilperson Evans can speak to that more. But it's my understanding there will be a future connection down the Central Pike, so that is in the works as well. And then I guess just from an infrastructure improvement or rebuttal, I always say housing is also infrastructure. You know, we can't build housing just for today's needs. We also need to treat it like infrastructure and build for tomorrow's needs. And this SP ultimately does that. And so we'd appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Lady?
Good evening. Thank you all for being here and your service to Nashville on the Planning Commission. So first of all, I really appreciate all the neighbors that came out to speak. This is a project that's been probably a little bit more challenging, and I think, you know, because of some of the circumstances around the owner who originally never wanted to sell and is now in a position where he has to move forward. So there's definitely going to be a development, whether it is this one, whether it is base zoning, it'll be developed. And so I got an email this afternoon that said that this plan seems like the best case, worst case scenario. And even though I don't think it's the worst case scenario, I do feel like it is a good plan. I feel like Beazer has been very responsive to residents, residential concerns, in particular related to kind of that conservation area and moving it. So that way there would be green space. And kind of to one of the residents that spoke who mentioned the other Beazer project that said there were no trees left remaining, 100% true. And so this is the way that Beazer heard those concerns and is working to make sure that residents in Aaron's Crest don't have the same outcome. And there are many reasons why that outcome happened, and I hope we can kind of work towards improving that landscaping kind of between the other side and then that other Beazer project that's unrelated to this conversation. I also agree with the residents who all brought up the traffic concerns. Central Pike is terrible, and I totally respect anybody that says that. This is not an emperor has no clothes kind of situation. I drive it every day. I recognize it. The biggest challenge that we're navigating is Wilson County gets a diverging diamond interchange first as a result of the Improve Act. It's been on the 10-year plan. I understand Mount Juliet has contributed money to bring that cost down, or increase, the opportunity for TDOT to move a little bit faster. It's still not going to happen fast enough, but Wilson County traffic is the biggest hurdle that we are facing when it comes to all of the development that's coming our way, because we're navigating our own residents, and then of course, folks that are coming over because they only have one on-ramp to I-40 in Mount Juliet. So related to what Mr. Goodrich said about infrastructure improvements, every infrastructure improvement that we have gotten in District 12, sadly, has been because of private development. It is not, as dense as some communities, and so we tend to be kind of on the lower end of the totem pole when it comes to receiving some of these changes. I'm appreciative of what has been constructed because it has assisted us over time, and I think ultimately Central Pike will probably be widened based more on private development improvements. I think it'll beat TDOT in the end by the time everything is said and done. So anyway, so in the end, I'm supportive of this project. I know I've seen some of the ramifications of some subdivisions that we went forward from last term and had conversations about doing SPs, and we ended up going base zoning because I couldn't get residential support. And now I'm dealing with the outcome of some of those decisions, and it's just not as positive an experience for residents, which is why I'm really glad that this is an SP. And so I believe that Beazer will work to help residential concerns ongoing that are brought forward, as we work through the council process. And after we're finished, we're going to step out in the hallway and just kind of talk through some more of those and see what else, can potentially be addressed. So anyway, sorry for being so long-winded, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Council Lady. That's a lot of good information, and we appreciate that. And seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Vice Chair, you want to lead us off?
Sure. Thank you for all of the comments from the public that came down, and thank you, Council Lady, for your comments as well. That's helpful. It's always hard, and I know this is why we're doing a housing and infrastructure study to think about these issues. This area definitely has seen a tremendous amount of growth, and obviously that's putting a lot of pressure on infrastructure, and I do think that we can't put all of that on private development and expect it to be done in a way that is comprehensive and cohesive and, thinking through all of these components that need to be put in place in order for us to actually do things like widen Central Pike. That can't be done a project at a time, most likely. Looking at generally, this project is consistent with policy. It's consistent with what's in the surrounding areas. I appreciate that there has been some effort to preserve the tree canopy. That's obviously really important, and especially if there's an example of projects that have been completely graded to the ground and all the trees have been lost. I do appreciate that that's a change. It's a lot of units. It's a very densely developed area. But again, it's consistent with the policy. It's consistent with what's surrounding there. This development pattern is not my favorite because it does push all of the traffic out onto certain streets. Even if there are a couple more entrances and exits, it's still, to the neighbor's point, pushing everything out on the same road. But that is also not going to be fixed by this one specific project. So I am supportive of staff recommendation to approve, but do want to express my reservations about the infrastructure issues and just, this continued development pattern in this area is only going to perpetuate it.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other discussion? Commissioner Dunn.
Yeah, I just have a quick question for staff. I think in the presentation, was there a number associated with the percent of the land area that's being dedicated to open space? And how does that link to the condition, or like, where do we see this in the conditions? Or how do we know that that will be implemented in a sense? And I know, I see condition 4 has when they submit the final site plan, that the plan will be evaluated, but if you could just talk through that a little bit.
Sure. So the number, I think it said about 8 acres, which is, I think, about 16% of the site would be natural area preserved. And so those areas are, I don't know, it doesn't show well on the screen, but maybe on your computers, the gray areas that have that cloud around them, those are the areas that would be retained, not disturbed. There's also kind of white areas that are not lots. That's just open space. So that's additional open space, but it might contain like stormwater management, or it might just be general amenity areas. But that's also included in that 30% open space figure that we gave. There is a condition, condition number 7 does say that the clearing, grading, and disturbance of natural open spaces is prohibited unless otherwise identified on the preliminary plan. So basically that would have to be consistent with what we're seeing here. Of course, when we get into the construction phase with the final SP and we get those technical documents, there could be some minor shifts. And so we always anticipate that happens, but that condition kind of sets it up to say the areas that you're saying are going to be natural will need to also stay natural in the final SP.
Okay, that's very helpful, because I do think, like the vice chair said, that the tree canopy and open spaces are important here. So I think I'm in agreement that it meets the policy, and I'd be in favor.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? We need a motion. Vice Chair, you want to make a motion?
I will make a motion that we accept staff's recommendation to approve this project with conditions.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Item 2 is adopted. We appreciate everybody coming down for item number 2. Now we are on to item number 3. And just a reminder that on item number 3 and item number 4, the public hearing is closed. It's been traditional for this body to still hear from the councilman, because I think he can give us an update about community meeting and that sort of thing. So I know the staff is going to do a lot of that, but go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is Jeremiah, presenting item number 3. So I'll be presenting item 3 and item 4 together. The overlay is being applied to different areas of the same corridor. As a reminder, the Commission will need to make separate motions for them. This is a request to apply a commercial compatibility overlay district. Staff recommends to approve with a substitute ordinance. The existing zoning includes commercial service, mixed use, and single-family residential. The site is in the urban mixed-use corridor policy area. The CCO was created by Metro Council in 2025. The CCO provides prohibitions and regulations on certain non-residential uses along collector and local streets in close proximity to residential lots to create a commercial development pattern that is compatible and harmonious with adjacent residential neighborhoods. The CCO creates a distance requirement for automobile repair, car wash, and local sales, and also establishes operational standards for automobile convenience, automobile parking, automobile service, bars and nightclubs, and commercial amusement land uses. The range of land uses permitted within the overlay district are those allowed by the underlying zoning district, with the exception of alternative financial services and beer and cigarette markets, which are prohibited. For any existing land use in conflict with the application at the time of this overlay, the use will be considered legally non-conforming. Compliance with CCO standards will not be required for legally non-conforming land uses. Staff evaluated the request against the applicability criteria for the CCO and found that the subject parcels meet the overlay requirements. The subject properties are contiguous and have frontage along either Buchanan Street, which is classified as a collector avenue in the Major and Collector Streets Plan, or Arthur Avenue, which is a local street. The proposed parcels within the overlay area are located within 100 feet of parcels zoned RS, R or RM, satisfying adjacency requirements to residential zoning. The proposed parcels are zoned CS, MUN, and MULA, which meet this requirement with the exception of one split zone property, which staff is proposed to modify the boundary of. The substitute ordinance removes the RS5 zone portion of parcel 447, as this residential zoning does not meet the applicability requirements for inclusion in the CCO district. The acreage of the proposed substitute is about 15 acres, which is under the 50-acre maximum. This item was presented and was deferred at the January 8, 2026 MPC meeting after a public hearing was held. The commission deferred the item and directed staff to review the regulations for bars and nightclubs in PSCDs, clarify how the proposal is initiated, consider ways to engage with the community, how the overlay could be applied in other areas, and the extent to which the overlay fills gaps in the existing noise ordinance. Staff reviewed the regulations in other cities, including Memphis, Austin, Charlotte, and Atlanta, to determine whether they impose distance requirements or other operational restrictions on bars and nightclubs that are not currently addressed in Nashville's code. The review found that most of these cities have distance requirements for locating bars and nightclubs near residential districts, and some have additional restrictions for establishments in neighborhood commercial areas. Based on the review of bars and nightclub regulations in PSCDs, it is not uncommon for jurisdictions to regulate the location and operation of bars and nightclubs near residentially zoned properties. These provisions typically apply in specific zoning contexts, such as commercial districts or areas adjacent to residentially zoned properties. In the PSCDs, these regulations are implemented directly through the zoning code rather than through overlays. The Commission also directed staff to clarify how the proposal to adopt the CCO is initiated. The process begins when a property owner or Metro Council member submits an application to the Planning Department for review. Planning staff then evaluates the application against the established applicability criteria and prepares a recommendation for the Planning Commission. After the Planning Commission makes a recommendation on the case, the proposal proceeds to the Metro Council for public hearing and final consideration. In terms of community engagement, the council member held a community meeting on February 21st. The Commission also directed staff to identify areas where the CCO could be applied, including locations such as Broadway, Redwood, Houston, 5 Points, 12 South, or potentially countywide. The CCO is only applicable to commercially zoned properties that have one or more frontages on either a collector street or a local street and are located within 100 feet of residentially zoned properties. The application of the overlay along collectors and locals was considered in the creation of the CCO, as they are lower classification streets, more likely to be found in a neighborhood context. 12 South and Broadway are arterials and do not meet the applicability requirement. Eligibility in the Redwood Houston area is not likely due to majority of the properties not meeting the 100-foot distance from residential zone properties. Staff reviewed several areas where bars and nightclubs are located throughout the county that could meet the criteria for application of the overlay. These areas include portions of Fatherland Street and North 11th Street, portions of Woodland Street, portions of Brickchurch Pike, portions of Sharp Avenue. However, this is not a comprehensive list of where the overlay could be applied. Staff also reviewed the existing noise ordinance and found that there are restrictions and limitations that apply during specific times of the day. Within the DTC and for property zone CF, there are specific decibel limits and regulations that apply during certain times of the day. Outside of the DTC area and property zone CF, the ordinance requires that noise or outdoor sound amplification not be plainly audible from the boundary line of the nearest residentially occupied property. The CCO introduces time-based restrictions on outdoor sound amplification that are not currently addressed in the code for properties not zoned DTC or CF. By limiting the areas of operation for bars and nightclubs, these provisions could help reduce noise impact on surrounding residential properties. Our recommendation is to approve with a substitute ordinance which removes a portion of a parcel that is residentially zoned. This parcel is highlighted in blue. Staff recommends to approve with a substitute ordinance. So I'll go ahead and present item 4 as well. There is also a request to apply a commercial compatibility overlay district. Staff recommends to approve with a substitute ordinance. The existing zoning includes commercial service and mixed use. The site is within the urban mixed-use corridor policy area. And so, as a reminder, these are the same slides as before, the same information that was just presented.
Sorry, I have a question. You said it was the same that was just presented, but this
Ma'am.
one looks like it, oh, sorry.
Yeah, so, sorry, we'll get, sorry. Thank you. Keep going. Let's get through the presentation.
The substitute ordinance is shown on the screen. The substitute ordinance removes a portion of a parcel that is residentially zoned, which is highlighted in blue. Staff recommends to approve the substitute ordinance. And so, as a reminder, the commission will have same hearing, public hearing for these two items, but then we'll need to make separate motions on both items. Thank you.
Thank you. And so that's a good reminder that we're going to discuss both items, but we'll need separate motions on item 3 and 4. So thank you. All right. And so as part of the presentation, I know that Councilman has some new information and an update for us. And so I appreciate you coming down and giving us your update. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you all. Thank everyone for coming down again tonight. We're pretty full the last time. Commissioners, thank you for the questions that you had on this. This is my preacher, but I'm not going to keep you long. But I will just kind of reiterate a few things. Since we last met here, we've had some good conversations. I've had some good conversations with many of the people that were here the last time. Some folks I haven't swayed to not come back. Many, I think we've done a good job of kind of removing some of the misinformation that was out there and kind of getting to the facts of the legislation. And so the big thing with this that I'm going to really briefly touch on is proximity. I just kind of gave you guys a few things. They don't pay us a lot, so I can only print a few of these copies. And I'll go through that. So this is just the sign-in sheet that you have for the community meeting. Had a good number of residents come out to the community meeting, and we had a good conversation. Heard from a lot of people and had a lot of things taken into consideration. Thankful to Commissioner Henley for joining us at that community meeting. And so hopefully he can share kind of some of his feedback of what he heard at the meeting. But the biggest thing I want to really talk about is this map that I have. I mentioned proximity. And so this map, I think, visually shows you exactly what I mean by proximity. So if you can see there, highlighted in green and blue, the two overlays that are proposed, each one of those, for the most part, back up to housing, right? And so thinking of that proximity, the biggest thing for me is managing the high-impact usages that are along the corridor. You know, it's about whether this high-impact usages should be located immediately next to single-family housing. These are people that aren't just new folks that have moved into this. At this community meeting, there were people that have been there for over decades, longer than I've been alive. And I'm pretty young, but not that young. And these are folks that have asked us to do something. One of the things I do want to make sure that I point to before I take my seat is just the peer cities. And what are we doing here in Nashville that is different from other places? And so briefly, in Memphis, bars and nightclubs must be located at least 500 feet from single-family residential zoning. And amplified music and sound are prohibited after 11 p.m. That's baked into their code. That's not an overlay. That's if you wake up today and you go get a permit, you got to follow that rule right now. In Atlanta, there's a minimum separation requirement of 300 feet. Again, that's also baked in their code. It's not an overlay. In Austin, it requires 50 feet. Again, it's baked into their code. Charlotte, 100 feet. And so Nashville, we don't have that in our code, which is why I'm here today. I'm trying to figure out how we can manage it. I tried to bake it into our code, and that's what I mentioned the first time I came here. I didn't think that was the best way to do it. And so we're here with an overlay that goes through a series of conversations, right? And we're not trying to bake it into our code, but we are trying to add something to our code to make sure that people have, residents have somewhere to come to, a tool to use when high-impact usages are on their doorstep. And so I asked you again to please, please, please approve this, not for Brandon Taylor, but for all the individuals that I represent that have asked me to take this on. And so I leave you with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman. We appreciate that. And so we are in deliberation, and Commissioner Leslie, you want to go first?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, but I probably really want to hear from Commissioner Henley first before I start.
Well, we can do that.
Would you do that for me?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right, I defer to.
Commissioner Henley, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Commissioner, for the deferral. Yeah, I think, there's quite a bit that I could say. I'll start with the community meeting. I was able to attend the community meeting that was held. I know that was something that was highly encouraged by this body. We have a sign-in sheet here before us. I would have, if you'd asked me without a sign-in sheet, I would have said there were 50 plus individuals there. It looks like it may be a bit more than that based off of the sign-in sheet. A lot of the representation there were residents and business owners or property owners that are on the corridor, which I think is important. I think that's a lot of what I think we sitting in our positions would have wanted to hear, or who we wanted to hear from in that forum. I think it was a very interesting dichotomy because there was a bit of there was a pretty consistent response from residents about the need to make some meaningful impact and meaningful change. And, you know, we heard from someone, you know, here this afternoon talk about their experience with the noise and impacts a lot of things around how it, you know, spilled beyond just the corridor and the overlay. And obviously that's why we're here today. I think one thing that was really interesting to me, and I made several notes about it, was hearing from the property owners and the business owners on the corridor. And I think a couple of things, you know, stuck out to me. One of them is there is a desire to have a better understanding, regardless of whether they've expressed their for, against, or listening, a better understanding of the overlay and how it's applied and what that means for their property. I'll give a bit of a preview of something I'll say later when we're in discussing after I hear from my fellow commissioners. But in terms of additional engagement, I do think there should be opportunity for the property owners, the business permit holders, I guess may be a way of identifying that, to have a bit of a work session, something that helps them really understand what this means for them. I think a lot of what I heard was people that are in the process of, well, I should say actively operating, in the process of having a project or a business start in the community, which we do not want to negatively impact. And then you also have property owners that, like many times we've heard before our commission, are interested in what that means, right? For their property values, land use rights is something that comes up often in multiple conversations. So I do think there's a need for more of that. I think a forum specifically for those individuals and those institutions would be really helpful because it is the first time we're doing something like this. I think that was what we heard a lot at our last meeting. There's a lot of people trying to get their arms around something that is new. Now, all of that being said, there were a lot of community members that spoke up and said that this is not a new issue, right? This is a new tool. And as we heard the council member say, you know, he brought something to us beforehand that I think was pretty swiftly dismissed. I think we have a map in front of us that we're looking at. And, you know, when you look at the yellow and the orange on the map that shows residential type uses, there is no buffer, right? And we just heard somebody come up today and say, hey, I've got residences that are next to me and there's no buffer, right? And so the intensity is real, it's felt. I think one thing that is important is to understand the uniqueness of the community. It is one that has a lot of history. It is one that also has a lot of momentum right now. I think the perception is that something like this could limit the momentum of that community. I don't want that to be an outcome. I don't think anybody wants that to be an outcome, but I think it's a very real concern for a lot of people. I think that's something that we as a body should make sure we think about when we deliberate. But I do want to talk about the tool that's put in front of us. I think, you know, our tools of the past have been extremely harmful and detrimental to communities that look like and are shaped like the one that we're talking about here. I think we have a responsibility for our tools today to be better than our tools of the past. I think that's the effort that Councilmember Taylor has been working through with our staff. Can it always get better? I think so. I think I heard a lot of people suggest and refine their opposition to the case that we're talking about now, these two items, to say, you know, utilize what's already in place. I'm not quite sure everyone knows what that looks like either, because if you have too many violations, you know, you start to lose the ability to operate a business. But one of the most common things that I heard from, you know, residents was that they understand that the businesses that are there today are there. They are essentially trying to fight against a critical mass, an overwhelming amount of businesses continuing to come. That becoming the dynamic of the neighborhood, and one seeming like it will continue to be new bar, new nightclub. And I think that's not what the community wants. I think they want to support the businesses that are there. Had a lot of people speak very adamantly about the businesses that have located there. I think there are a lot of businesses that are in the process of locating there that really want this corridor and this community to receive them and to be, you know, great neighbors. And that's something that I think came up over and over again. Unfortunately, we have to talk about how to do that with policy, because I think has been failed efforts. There were several stories of people talking about, you know, numerous opportunities that they feel that were offered to improve some of the dynamics between the businesses on the corridor and the patrons of those businesses, and they felt like they were helpless the amount of times that I heard people say prisoner, was, it was disheartening. People were expressing that they had had a great amount of disdain and lack of success when they brought things forward. So I understand why Councilmember Taylor has tried several different ways of doing this. But I do think it's worth us being very mindful and understand there needs to be more steps, because I think the context of using an overlay that's not fully understood by property owners still should ring very true. I don't think it's the wrong thing to do, but I do think we need to understand that there's a responsibility that comes with it, and making sure that it's something that is a continuous discussion with those that are being impacted.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Do you want to go back to Commissioner Leslie?
I guess. No, I have a couple questions before I make a statement. And I thank you, that was so eloquently said, like you were a preacher or something like that. Yeah, no more rumors. All right, so a question I have. So it says that, note that the existing zoning listed above will remain on the subject properties and the proposed overlay will be applied. So when I look at the existing zoning on the commercial service, it says that it allows financial. So if you, I think one of the things that it wants to exclude on the compatibility study, I think it's, what do you call those, payday cash?
Check cashing.
So
or-
is that financial?
If you're referring to the alternative financial, those are the check cashing businesses. I don't know how else to describe that, but Lisa may have a better way.
It's separate uses. So a bank, for instance, is a separate use than alternative financial services in the zoning code. And so alternative financial services are defined as including check cashing, payday lenders, even, I want to say, pawn shops. And so that all falls under that category. It's a separate use listing in the zoning code
Okay. And
than a
then-
bank, yeah.
Thank you, Lisa. And then it says restaurant. So under the existing code, is a bar and a club allowed? Is that part of being a restaurant?
Restaurants in the code are different than bar or nightclub. They're two separate uses, so they are permitted separately. If someone applies for a bar and nightclub use, then codes would look at that as different than a sit-down restaurant type use. So that they are different in the zoning code.
So under the commercial services, a restaurant, I'm just trying to get some clarity. So under the commercial services, a restaurant is included in the zoning, but a bar and club may or may not be included?
Under commercial services, bar or restaurant is permitted and restaurant is permitted.
Now, so I have a discussion. So I'm a native Nashvilleian. I've looked at this and I've studied this, but to me, truthfully, I don't think this overlay has teeth. And why I say that is that I think the problem is noise, what's going on in the neighborhood. And so if you allow me, when I was growing up, Buchanan Street was very commercial. And I heard people talk about, when we were here before, the culture of the neighborhood. I heard one gentleman say to a person that owned a resident that he should have known that he was buying property next to a bar or club. I think that's true. But I think a business owner should know where they're putting their property to. So I think that just allow me, so when I was growing up, you used to have little grills in the front, and how people would barbecue in the front yard and not in the backyard. And how the culture of that time would be that you would go to your neighbors and say, look, I'm getting ready to have a barbecue. There are going to be some drinking. It might get a little loud, but we're going to stop at a certain amount of time because I know everybody has to go to work, and you come over and get a plate, right? And then when we get through partying, we're going to clean up what we did. So you wouldn't even know that we were there. So that's the culture. So I'm a business owner myself. I have the opposite problem. I have a commercial property where a residential unit came in, and they do the opposite. They park on my property. They throw trash on my property. They even have the nerve to throw trash from another restaurant on my property. But what I do, I police my own property. I know that there's a certain amount, a level of sound that has to go. I mean, I know that during the day it has to be a certain level, at night I have to tone it down. I walk around and I pick up the trash. So not only is it being a good neighbor, it's being a good business owner. That we all have to live together. I think it's pretty cool. I was thinking about when the power went off. I said to myself, wouldn't it be nice to have a little restaurant or something in the neighborhood where we wouldn't have to go all over everywhere. We could just walk in the neighborhood and go do things. And I think this this commercial compatibility study intended to do, is so we could all live together and to be good neighbors. There's a noise ordinance on about everything. You can't have loud noises in your residence, right? So then at night you got to turn it down. You can't drive your car, can't be that loud. You can't do construction at a certain amount of time. So it's a matter of us living together and doing things together. Now, what I think is that there's a noise problem. And I don't think that this overlay actually resolves that noise problem. I think that there should be something else done to get that resolved. I think that elderly people should be able to lay down at night and go to sleep and get up in the morning and go to work. I think that a restaurant and a bar ought to be able to operate their business, but we all have to do it together. So I was thinking about, and I'm thinking, how can we all do this together? Because there are businesses, there are restaurants that operate in neighborhoods, but they keep it down. So it's all about being a good business. But the question before us is whether this commercial compatibility overlay does what it's supposed to do in the area. Is it nice? Should it be there? Probably. Does closing down at 12 o'clock make a difference as to whether you close down at 12 o'clock or you close down at 3 o'clock? And another question I wanted to ask, what about after-hour clubs? Can they open up? I mean, after-hour clubs start after 12, stay open late. Does this address this?
Do you know the answer?
There's not a separate land use for that. I mean, it would just all be bars, nightclubs, and anything that falls under the category of a bar or nightclub would be limited to the operating hours that are outlined in the ordinance.
So I don't know if an after-hours club classifies as a bar or whatever, but, they open up late, stay open later. I don't know. It is not my purview to understand this. But, so I've heard from both sides, and I thank Commissioner Henley for saying that. But really, I think this overlay was created for certain businesses. I really do think that. And I really do think, as a business owner, ought to be a good business owner. So that's my statement, and I'll defer to the rest of the commissioners and hear what they have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? We'll do Commissioner Marshall and then Vice Chair.
All right, thank you. Well, first I want to thank the staff here for going back and doing all of these studies on the questions that we had. And for me personally, it came back, making me more encouraged or more positive about what this overlay is trying to do. One of the things that I would ask, though, when you did the study with the peer cities, which was very eye-opening to me, was there any data there that indicated that this type of overlay created any deterrent for new businesses or even the existing businesses that are there? Was that anywhere in that research that you found?
No, I don't think we researched it in that way. We just looked at other zoning codes to see if these types of regulations were present in other zoning codes, but we did not go to see what the effects of it were.
Okay, all right. And so then looking at the peer city reviews, this particular overlay is not doing anything any different than what these peer cities are already doing and not truly having a negative effect on the overall businesses that are operating, in those communities. I'm also encouraged the fact that the councilman did have additional meetings. I wasn't able to attend that meeting, but I did hear the radio broadcast of a interview that you did. And I thought that it was very informative, and the people that asked questions were very good questions. And I think it's just going to be hard to satisfy everybody. But I do think property owners in that community, which I am one, that own property in that zip code as well, do deserve some type of quality of life when it comes to after-hour activities in that community. And so based on what I see and what I hear from some of the people that actually reached out to me as well, I would support this overlay as it has been presented.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any, Vice Chair, you're next.
So thank you, Commissioner Henley, for attending the meeting. That was really, everyone was eagerly waiting to hear your feedback on that as well. So I had a couple quick questions. Do any of the other peer cities that you looked at regulate hours, or are they just dealing with noise levels?
Yes, they do regulate hours. Memphis has the closing, I guess, closing time, it would be 3 a.m. Austin was 2 a.m. Charlotte was, prohibited between 2:30 a.m. and 7 a.m. So, okay. And then Atlanta was 2 a.m.
So it's standard to have hours as well as the noise amplification?
In the cities that we looked at, yes.
Okay, that is helpful. I do have another question, and I guess this is sort of from what Commissioner Leslie was talking about. I mean, we have teeth with this overlay for any new businesses that want to come into the area, but we still do have the enforcement issue for businesses that are grandfathered in, right? And they would still be able to operate as they do today with no changes, is that correct?
That's correct.
So they could stay open later?
That's
everything
correct.
Like that. So then we still have to rely on the procedures that we have in place now to deal with the violations that would occur, any potential violations that occur from those grandfathered in, I guess. I mean, I realize that's something it makes sense. I understand why we're going this route. It's just, that is a little bit of a tricky situation. I tried to just clear my head of everything else that this case represents and think about it from a land use perspective. And from a land use perspective, I agree a lot with what Commissioner Leslie said as well. We do need to find a way for uses to work together. And this is an appropriate tool to try to put in place to make sure that we have residential and commercial that can exist together, regardless of location, type of business, all of that stuff. So I support this as a concept that makes sense in this area, to help make sure that quality of life remains for everybody and that there is some predictability for new businesses that come in. I struggle a little bit with how this will get enforced, and whether we will be able to address the issues that are causing problems for existing residents today. We're still going to need some other way of getting that, fixing that for them. I guess that's for council to try to navigate a little bit. But I think, there's going to be more discussion had at the council level. I really like Commissioner Henley's suggestion that we should do some more education on what this means and how you can comply with it and what you can and can't do. This is certainly ripe for misinformation and confusion, and getting to the bottom of that and trying to be as transparent as possible, I think would go a long way for everybody. But I think in concept, this is what makes sense. The fact that we've limited it to, truly neighborhood streets, which is where you do need to make sure you have residential and commercial compatibility. I think in that way, it all makes sense. And this is the first one out of the chute. It was brought to us by Councilman Taylor last year to put in place this overlay. We're going to see this used in other neighborhoods. There's no question. And we'll have to figure out the growing pains. But, I think it's a policy that makes sense, and we're just going to have to figure out how to work with it going forward. So I would support staff recommendation.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Any other discussion? Commissioner Dundon.
Does new business mean you've sold the property to a new owner, or can a new tenant come in and would they be subject to the overlay?
The use remains regardless of who the ownership is. So if that, and it gets pretty complicated under the law, but the use would remain even if the owner does change. I mean, there's limitations. I think it's 30 months but then there's also things that if a business is is not operating for 30 months or more, then there starts to be questions of whether they can still be in place. But that gets more complicated, and the zoning administrator has to make determinations on whether they have actively kind of changed their use intentionally, or if something was done. The example the zoning administrator gave me was basically if a gas station closes up for more than 30 months, but they still have the tanks in the ground, he might still consider that to be active. But if they take the tanks out of the ground, he would say that that's not active anymore.
Okay, but if you, let's say you own and operate a nightclub and then you sell it to someone else who is going to continue to own and operate that nightclub, you would not be subject to this new overlay because you're continuing the use. Okay,
Right.
So it's the use. All right, that's very helpful. I think I share this issue about the noise ordinance is not working. And it's because I was trying to compare with the overlay, you can have no sound amplification between 9 p.m. and 10 a.m., and no bars and nightclubs can operate between 12 and 9. Without the overlay, and you just have noise ordinance in place, you can't have more than 85 decibels being audible to your neighbor, essentially. And it sounds like that's just not happening. And then it looks like the staff wrote that a barrier to the enforcement of the noise ordinance is typically that the hours of complaints are outside the operating hours of the department, which is, that makes a lot of sense. Police have the ability to enforce noise ordinance too. I'm sure people have probably called and complained, and it doesn't get to this stage if that was a functioning system. So I don't know that we can solve that problem, but if there's something we can put in the record to encourage further study, or, we have a noise ordinance, but it seems completely unenforced and really useless, especially in situations like this. So I don't know if there's anything we can put in the record to help that process move forward, but I would advocate for that. We got it. Okay. And then just the last point is that in the last meeting, one thing that I felt really powerfully was that we needed to sort of restore some trust in the process in this body. And I think that, to me, that was why I voted for a deferral and for another chance to talk about this. And it sounds like there's been a meeting, and I guess I would like Commissioner Henley's thoughts on has there been some trust restored, even if people are not happy with the outcome, which I think we've all agreed everyone is not going to be happy with this. But if we feel like the process has been, at least more opportunity to understand the process has been offered.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Haley?
Yeah, well, first
Your name was called.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'll address that. I'd be extremely, with my fellow commissioners to speak about the trust factor being restored. Just candidly, no, right? But we have a lot of reasons why there's not trust. I don't think we need to go into all of those. I will say that I think the additional opportunities have been there. And I think obviously the council member is going to continue to give them, in policy and procedure, there's a public hearing. And I'm very strongly suggesting that there is a version that we work to craft so that the property owners and the businesses are able to understand it. I think that's where my personal opinion, where a lot of the challenges came in, is in talking to people. It probably is more than 100 now. Out of that, very few people actually understood all of the components, right? There was early on, it was people blew my phone up because they said, don't touch Jefferson Street. So about 30 calls in a day were that, right? So you had some misinformation. I think the opportunity to distill this down a lot more has happened. I think there's still a lot more conversations to be had. There's a lot of people who have strong opinions, not that people are used to saying yes or no. And so we've got a lot of people that say no because if you don't understand it well enough. A lot of people come to me and just said they think that the hours are too restrictive. That's not where I want to lean into, but I understand why they have a concern about the hours time frame. So there's different levels and tiers, I would say, of concern. I think there's more opportunities that could be offered there, and I think it's worth listening even further. I think, again, the goal is to make it as unique to the area as possible, because I know the overlay tool is a tool now. It will be used. I agree with Vice Chair. But I think we need to understand that neighborhoods and corridors, they have their own character. They will need to live and breathe as unique entities. And so I'm going to encourage that here, just like I would anywhere else, but I'm going to extremely advocate for it here. But then hopefully I addressed the question there. Chair, I did have a couple other comments, and I think I kind of gave I don't know if philosophical was the right term to use there, thoughts about it, but on a very technical standpoint, I think, and I'm glad we have these, because I would, again, encourage the commission to look at these. One thing that's really unique about the corridor is if I'm talking to one property owner versus the next property owner, their situation is extremely different, even if they're next to each other, because of the parcel shapes and the parcel sizes. And we talk about that dynamic a lot. There are a lot of people that were concerned about something when, my neighbor's property is 4 times larger than mine. Why do I have to abide by what they abide by? So there's going to be, I think, some of those topics. Again, the unique geometries are something we should look at. And I do think that it's worth maybe a deeper dive into the buffer tables, just because of that. I think there's going to be some challenges, right? Especially when we talk about the future. I know there's a lot of people that want to see this corridor thrive. And one of the things I think will be a challenge is maybe consistent ability to align with all of those buffer typologies and things when you don't have as uniform of a site layout. So I do think there's obviously some technical things I think that should be added, or at least made more available to the property owners as they start to think about their future. But all in all, I think the community has a desire to continue to have a voice. I think that's already laid out. And I do think there's an opportunity for us as a body to make sure that there is some more trust that can be built, I'll say it that way, by providing more details on the new tool. I think it's something that needs to come.
Thank you, Commissioner Henley. Any other discussion? We need a clarification on one point. Lisa?
Sure. Commissioner Leslie, I misspoke. There is a separate land use for after-hours establishments, although it is not permitted in any of the zoning districts that are along Buchanan Street, and so it would not be impacted by this overlay. Those establishments are generally permitted in DTC, the downtown code, industrial warehousing, industrial restrictive, and mixed-use intensive. And so those are districts that you would normally not find along collectors or local streets and do not exist along Buchanan Street. And so those should not be a factor in any of the conversations.
Thank you, Lisa. We want to make sure we get the record correct from the staff. Any other discussion? Commissioner Leslie?
Well, I've listened to everybody, and I just, I think that, I just want to say this, Councilperson Taylor, I think that is admirable, because I think people, again, need to be able to live where they want to live and do so in, I guess you'd say, the quality of life. But again, there's also something in effect right now that will prevent what's going over on Buchanan Street. And that's a noise ordinance right now that can be enforced. And just by example, I give you another example. There's an ordinance about how high grass can be, right? So I get a letter, so I have to cut my grass when it's over an inch or whatever. And if I don't do it, you know what they do? They send me a letter and tell me they're gonna fine me, right? And so there are certain things that are in place. I don't think, again, this overlay does what you want it to do. I just really don't. I think that the neighbors over there have the right to say, we don't want these kind of businesses, but I can be loud up until 12 a.m. I can cause a problem within that time frame. So it doesn't do what it says it's gonna do. So I say that to say that I'm inclined to vote no.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Commissioner Dundon.
I guess I just, the only other thought that came to me as Commissioner Leslie was speaking is that I don't think the noise ordinance actually works here, because if it was enforced, I don't think the businesses could operate. I mean, I don't know how you would have a nightclub next to a house that could possibly operate at all if you're only showing 85 decibels at the property line. So it would effectively shut down the business is kind of, so I feel like the overlay is probably better here. It's like the best compromise that protects, even though it's not going to apply to the existing, which I think was part of your point as well. Yeah.
Maybe a nightclub shouldn't be next to a residence. I mean, it's just, it's a good business sense to me. I wouldn't put a nightclub next to a residential place. That's all I want to say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Councilman, and then Commissioner Smith.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to echo some of the sentiments my colleague expressed, that the noise ordinance is notoriously difficult to enforce, most notably because the department doesn't operate when we typically have noise complaints, which is something fun that council members get to experience all the time. And I think, as my colleague noted, the police do have the ability to enforce the noise ordinance, but that's often a very unpleasant experience for the resident on who's having the noise ordinance enforced on them. And I think rather than taking that type of reactive approach to complaints, taking a proactive approach to managing hours is a more effective one, and reduces some of the risks and unpleasantness that enforcement measures like relying on police typically have as well. So I'm inclined to vote yes for this as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Commissioner Smith.
I have notes. I'm going to try to be brief. I think I said last time, I struggle with overlays. They're pretty broad, pretty blunt, especially when they come with some resident disagreement, which we obviously have here. You can go on the Planning Commission website and see the submitted public comment, which is pretty split, and that's property owners and residents and concerned citizens who don't live there have all kind of weighed in and are fairly split. That being said, I think that this does have, the primary attribute of a good compromise, which is that everyone's a little unhappy. I think that as a planning body, land use and even operating hours, I've seen operating hours being enforced on gas stations because they have lit up canopies if they're near residential. I think these are legitimate tools. I'm also pretty concerned with the concept and use of property rights. I think if this was, I don't think, maybe not legal, applied retroactively to the businesses there, I don't think I could support it. But I think that, and I think that there's a lot of truth in that this is not, if enacted, going to cure the problem of noise. I think that's true. But I think what it does is enact some future planning tools for what the community wants this corridor to look like going forward. And that's always a struggle with how a city organically evolves. And that happens all over. I mean, you look at Music Row, which everyone thinks of as these great songwriters, but that was residential. I mean, those were just houses. And it got repurposed for something else. And it was kind of drifting into something else, and that community kind of pulled back on that and put some guidelines in place. And I think something that's changed my mind a little bit too was I've heard a little bit more support from the residents. I've seen Councilman Taylor being incredibly steadfast in his support of this against a lot of anger and opposition, which I think to me indicates that there's a pretty good groundswell of support. I don't think that the elected representative would be this adamant about it were it not a real problem and a real request from his constituents. And I think I'm inclined to vote yes. I think a lot of that is because it is affecting the future, and in hopes that will lead to what the community more accurately desires, even if it doesn't immediately fix the immediate problem. But that's unfortunately, from a level of policy, probably about as good as this body can recommend at least. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? I do personally want to say thank you to the councilman for holding the community meeting. I think that was a really important part of the community discussion. I want to thank the community for coming out. It's a big deal for us. As you can tell, we do struggle with it sometimes with big community decisions, but I just want to thank everybody for getting together, and Councilman, thank you for doing that. It means a lot to us as a commission. And so I appreciate both the councilman and the community. And I want you to know that this commission, knowing all the commissioners, like I said earlier, they love Nashville, we love our community, and we try to do the right thing. So, that said, Commissioner Henley, would you like to, is there any other?
Just a reminder, there needs to be two motions, one for item 3 and item 4.
Yes, so the first motion would be for item 3. Commissioner Henley, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, Chair. I'd like to make a motion that we accept staff recommendation to approve with the substitute ordinance.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no?
No.
One no, Commissioner Leslie. And the substitute passes. Commissioner Henley, you're recognized to make a motion on item 4.
Item 4, I'd like to accept staff recommendation to approve with the substitute ordinance.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no? Commissioner Leslie is no. And item 4 passes. So thank you, everybody, for doing that. We, commissioners, as you know, we've been here for 2 hours, and we're going to take a break. Without objection, we'll take a break, and we'll come back. And so we finished 3 items. We have 6 items left, and our next item will be item number 7. We'll take a break. All right, everybody, we're going to get started again. I want to thank you for letting us take a quick break. We are now on, Commissioners, item number 7. Oh, wait, 1 second. Hold on. I kept saying it's Lisa. We have an update on another item, Commissioners, before we do item 7.
Hi, we do. Item number 19, the staff let me know that that one can go back on consent. There is not anyone here in opposition.
And the owner was actually,
Yes.
got confused.
Yes.
And he was, okay.
Yes.
So Commissioners, item 19 was on the consent originally. Is there a motion to put item number 19 back on the consent for approval?
So moved.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and item 19 is approved and back on the consent agenda. So that leads us to item number 7.
All right, thank you. This is item 7 on the agenda tonight. This request is to amend a planned unit development overlay to permit 77 multifamily residential units. Staff recommends to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. This site consists of 2 parcels located at Old Lebanon Dirt Road and 1704 Robards Way. The existing zoning is RM9, and the site has been within the PUD since 1973. The surrounding parcels are RM9 and the Shopping Center Community Center, which are also within the PUD. And the RS 7.5, RS 15, and R8 to the east are not within the PUD. The existing PUD received approval from the Metro Council in 1973 and permitted a total of 1,701 single-family and multifamily residential units in 16 separate phases over approximately 215 acres. Several portions of the PUD have been amended over the years. The highlighted portion on the screen is the subject site we are discussing today, and this portion is part of Phase 3, and it was originally approved for 48 lots. And this PUD phase previously showed access crossing the creek from Robards Way. The site plan consists of around 11.4 acres located along the west side of Dutch Fall Cove's terminus. The subject site is a portion of Phase 3. The 77 multifamily residential units are townhomes proposed with a max height of 2 stories and 35 feet. The proposed plan has 2 access points. The first is from a proposed private drive that is an extension from Dutch Falls Cove to the east. The existing temporary turnaround off Dutch Falls Cove is to be removed, and a new NDOT standard turnaround will be built to tie in the existing curb, sidewalk, and pavement. The Dutch Falls entrance is proposed to be gated for emergency access only. The second vehicle access point is from the Rockwood Drive to the west. This access point uses an existing 50-foot wide access easement recorded with a previous plat. The plan shows a 5-foot sidewalk down the north side of the private drive. There are several areas of surface parking spaces shown on the plan for a total of 39 additional spaces, and the Dry Fork Creek runs along the northern boundary of the subject site. This plan outlines the existing tree canopy and the area of preservation. So this site is within the suburban neighborhood evolving policy area, which intends to create and enhance suburban neighborhoods with the best qualities of classic suburban neighborhoods, greater housing choice, improved connectivity, and more creative, innovative, and environmentally sensitive development techniques. This site is also within the conservation policy, which is outlined in the northern boundary of this site where the Dry Fork Creek runs along. The plan proposes a greater housing choice with the proposed 77 townhomes, which is consistent with the T3NE policy. The plan also identifies the stormwater management area, floodway zone 1 and zone 2 buffers, and the 100-year floodplain. The plan outlines the existing tree canopy and the area of preservation. The conservation policy goals are met with all the proposed townhomes shown outside of the areas of the sensitive environmental features. The previously approved plan for this phase only permitted vehicle access from the Market Square to the north, which was which would necessitate a stream crossing and increased disturbance to the floodplain area of the site. The relocation of the access point better addresses the goals of the conservation policy. Section 17.40 permits the Planning Commission to approve minor modifications to the PUD under certain conditions. However, since this proposed amendment introduces a new vehicle access point to an existing street and is requesting to change from a single-family unit type to a multifamily unit type, this proposal is classified as an amendment to the currently approved plan and requires council approval. Therefore, staff recommends to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And so, commissioners, will open this item for public hearing, and is the applicant in the room? Come on up. And as we've stated before, you have 8 minutes, and you can save 2 of the 8 minutes for rebuttal. Welcome. Please state your name. Oh, hold on. Let's get your microphone on, and then, sorry about that. Start over. Okay, go ahead.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Caleb Knox. I'm with Ashton Woods Homes. I'll keep this brief. I'll tell you that we've worked appropriately and extensively with Metro Planning, along with NDOT and also Nashville Fire, to make sure that the plan that we have before you today checks the proper boxes. And I'll also just point out that we are simply attempting to amend the existing PUD to get us to the underlying zoning that's already there. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll save 2 minutes for rebuttal. Anyone in the room wishing to speak? Come on up. Welcome. Appreciate you coming down.
Good evening. My name is Whitney Ellis. I am a resident in the Tulip Grove Point neighborhood that connects to the Dutch Falls Cove, which is directly impacted by the proposed development for Hermitage Woods. And so tonight I'm here on behalf of many neighbors who could not attend but share the same concerns. We understand and respect that growth is happening. There's a lot in Hermitage, as we've heard about tonight. And so we're not opposing the development. We don't love the idea of townhomes because it negatively affects our property values as single-family homes, but we're not opposing it. However, we're asking that this project be thoughtfully planned so it does not negatively impact the safety, infrastructure, and character of our existing single-family neighborhood. Our first concern is traffic and child safety. Tulip Grove Point right now has a high number of young children. They're walking, biking, playing on the sidewalks and streets daily when it's warm out. And so while we understand the need for this emergency access point, we are concerned that an access route through our neighborhood could increase traffic over time. Emergency access often begins as that emergency access, but over time it becomes a cut through, especially with all the traffic we're seeing on Central Pike, which connects to Tulip Grove Road, our neighborhood access point. And if it isn't clearly restricted and enforced, that can become an issue for our kids. So we are requesting a formal traffic study specific to our neighborhood streets, along with clear limitations on how that emergency access will be controlled and enforced. We would love clarity around the emergency access gate and what that boundary looks like. From the plans, it doesn't look like there's any kind of buffer between the parking and the last single family lot. And so we are asking for heavy landscaping, buffering, a fence. We've already had a lot of concerns with safety from kids from the neighborhood behind us coming down, breaking basketball goals, things like that. So we would like to have some type of fence, heavy greenery between the two neighborhoods. And then we're also just concerned if there is parking, what the lighting looks like there. So we're not here to stop development, but we're just asking it be done responsibly.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else? Come on up. Welcome.
My name is RJ Scher, and I'm a resident on Market Square, directly affected. My house is adjacent to the creek there that would be directly affected, and I'm just going to read a letter on behalf of several residents in the Market Square community. We respectfully request that the Metro Planning Commission and Metro Council defer or deny the proposed plan unit development amendment of the parcels located at the aforementioned site. The proposal seeks to construct 77 townhomes on 11.23 acres, approximately 6.86 units per acre. The acreage on a prior submittal was listed at 10.72 acres with a unit density of 7.2. The density calculation seems to be achieved through an unexplained acreage adjustment rather than a substantive change to site design or boundaries. We ask that the basis for the revised acreage to be clearly documented and reviewed by staff. In either case, we understand this property was previously designated as open space. We maintain that the PUD should not be amended. In the event it is amended for the proposed development, both parcels lie within the T3 Suburban Neighborhood Maintenance Blue Policy Area under Nashville Next, which is intended to preserve the established suburban character, lot pattern, setbacks, and open space of existing neighborhoods. The intensity and cluster form of the proposed development conflict with this policy and would alter the neighborhood scale and rhythm. While 7.2 units per acre falls within the RM9 limits, it would be considered a high-intensity townhome cluster for the T3 policy. 6.86 is a marginally improved density. However, the large clusters of attached units is inconsistent with the suburban character of our adjacent lots. We are also deeply concerned about the environmental sensitivity of the adjacent stream corridor. This waterway supports a stable aquatic ecosystem and documented sightings of otters and indicated species and crayfish, which endangered.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Seeing none, a rebuttal first and then the council lady, sorry. Rebuttal, sir? Would you? And then we'll do you, council lady.
To address some of the comments, this is something that we have worked on and looked at quite a bit, and that is why we have the gated access there that will be gated. Totally understand those concerns, and also will be addressing that with proper landscaping. Thank you.
Thank you. Council lady?
Thank you. I appreciate the neighbors that came out tonight. That was their first time coming, and I appreciate the activation of new folks to the process to learn more. This land is very odd. It's kind of an unusual position, in the district. And so it has been some land that I have been interested in being activated since last term. And so this is a project that the development team started working on and incorporating revisions, from planning in September. And so it's one of those that I understand residential concerns, and I think there's opportunity for some more education around this project because it did get started such a long time ago, and it's just now coming, to this point at planning. And so my understanding is that if this were to pass tonight, it would not be until May that it would actually get to council based on filing deadlines. And so I'm willing to, have community meeting, continue to work with residents to hear their concerns, and also make sure that, those concerns are addressed. I understand that there's limitations, based on anything that's not provided from you all, with the removal of the PUD. It's not like it's an SPU where I can, kind of craft all my own conditions. But it's definitely something that I'm, willing to continue to work on as it moves forward in the process. So I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Councilor. And seeing no one else wish to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. And Commissioner Smith, it's your turn. Go first.
Question, is the concept or character area, is that neighborhood maintenance or neighborhood evolving? I thought in our...
Evolving.
Okay. I think it fits in with the character policy. I think that it fits in with the neighboring uses. It's very close to commercial. I take it the gate is a permanent gate that can be opened by emergency responders only. And I'm inclined to support staff recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Commissioner, you want to make a motion?
I move to accept staff recommendation of approval with conditions.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? A second? Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and item number 7 is adopted. We are now on to item number 9, which, Commissioners, is a little bit different because it's a text amendment, and this is the first. Okay, go ahead.
All right, this is item number 9 on the agenda. The proposed amendment would remove the bar or nightclub use from being a permitted by right use or permitted with conditions use in the shopping center zoning districts. Bar or nightclub is a permitted use in shopping center regional and shopping center community zoning districts and permitted with conditions in shopping center neighborhood zoning districts. The conditions applicable to SCN, as seen on the screen, they limit the bar or nightclub use to no more than 2,500 square feet of gross floor area establishment, or gross floor area per establishment, and no more than 1 establishment is permitted per lot. The conditions are not applicable to the other 2 zoning districts, SCC and SCR, where the use is permitted by right. So this legislation would prohibit bar or nightclub use in SC zoning districts and shopping centers as a built form. However, there are other zoning districts that could have strip shopping centers as a built form. Additionally, bar or nightclub is a permitted use in a variety of zoning districts, including our mixed-use districts, commercial districts, and office or residential intensive district, and are often found on major corridors, which is consistent with policy that commercial uses are appropriate on commercial corridors. To clarify, a bar or nightclub is different from a restaurant use and defined in the code as any establishment primarily in the business of the sale of alcoholic beverages for on-premise consumption and possessing the appropriate licenses for such. Some bars or nightclubs are associated with community complaints and crime. Staff completed an analysis of Hub Nashville complaints and Metro Police Department data as it relates to bars or nightclubs. Bar or nightclub is not a category that's used by the assessor for land use. Our analysis indicated there are approximately 142 in the county, excluding the downtown area, DTC. And of that 142, 5 bars or nightclubs are located in SC zoning. Staff acknowledges that bars may at times result in complaints from nearby neighbors in addition to instances of crime. Data from Metro Police was used to determine crime reports, and data from Hub Nashville was used to determine if there's a pattern of complaints around bars. For commercial uses near bars or nightclubs, complaints may be less likely due to other commercial uses operating at different peak hours. Hub Nashville data indicated that proximity to residential properties is a factor in the number of complaints. Staff found that complaints would generally increase with nearby residences, but the highest complaints are not necessarily those with the most residences nearby. From the instances of complaints gathered from Hub Nashville data, the vast majority of bars had no complaints, with only a handful having some complaints. Bars with the highest number of complaints were not zoned SC, but were zoned mixed use, MU, commercial, CS, or specific plan. And one of the top 4 is considered to be in a strip shopping center form. Using Metro Police data from the time period of January 2024 through February of this year, staff looked at data to identify crimes within 100 feet of a parcel with an identified bar. Most bars did not have any reported crimes, and a few had crime counts under 5. 2 of the 4 parcels with the highest counts of crimes were from parcels that were in Councilmember Stiles' district. And then also, of these 4 bars, 2 of them were considered to be in strip shopping centers in form, but aren't zoned strip shopping center, zoned shopping center. And then they were also located on parcels that were MUG or MUL or commercial CL. While staff has identified the zoning districts of bars with the highest number of complaints and reports of crime, it is not to imply that removing the bar use from other zoning districts will remedy the issues of complaints or crime. Staff has concerns that excluding the use from zoning districts would not get at the larger issue of crime or complaints associated with the few establishments as based on analysis of available data. There's not a single characteristic of bars that results in a high number of complaints. The data may be indicating that the bar use is not the problem, but there are problems with certain establishments. There may be other tools outside of zoning that could be used to target bars with noise complaints, with high noise complaints, or records of crime, which could include coordination with codes enforcement or coordination with the Metro Police Department for certain locations. Bar and nightclub as a use is appropriate on major corridors with commercial policies. So staff's recommendation is to defer to the March 26th 2026 Planning Commission meeting, which is consistent with our text amendment process. Now we have the time to, have a public hearing and hear comments and receive direction from you all. So and then also this is the bill schedule right now. So leave it there. I can go back to the slide if we need to.
Thank you. And so, commissioners, we'll open this item for public hearing. Try to get some feedback, some thoughtful feedback. This is the first time, and then we'll defer. The motion will be to defer when we make the motion. So we'll open the public hearing, and the applicant is really the Councilor Stiles. Is that right, Lisa? Yes. Okay. And so anyone wishing to speak? This is the only public hearing. If it goes to the council, there'll be a public hearing too there. Welcome. We gotta get the mic.
I forget, I should know that. I'm on a billboard here. Okay, so I really stayed to see what this was about. I don't know all of the details, and because it's a public hearing, I did just want to speak on it. I'm not sure this is the resolution that we need. It definitely is, again, like one of those targeted plans that focuses on certain locations. And as the data presented, it doesn't seem like they will resolve the issue that is being put forth or that the person that put it forth is trying to resolve. So I would I would encourage you to vote no on this. And I would like to have, I'm curious about like more conversation around it, because I know that I live in Antioch. This is probably, I'm not in that district, but I have an idea of what some of these locations that are being targeted. And we are already limiting some nightclubs in certain areas. It's just dwindling down spaces for people to come together and hang. And there are ways for us to address these issues as a community, as the commission, the compliance, and all of that good stuff. So let's not make these decisions based on these small number of nuisances, if you will. Thank you. And my name is Shanique Lapion, for the record.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for coming down. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, the councilman's not here, so seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Marshall, you want to start us off?
Sure. I'm still trying to gather my thoughts around the whole motion, but I certainly understand, in just listening to the presentation, that putting nightclubs in some of these areas create problems. I mean, quite honestly, I've seen that in areas that I'm very familiar with. So I can kind of see why the council person would have, brought forth this type of recommendation. The specific data that was just described, it does to me paint a picture that crime is certainly an issue, when you have clubs in, places like this, And so I would, based on my experience with it, I would agree that this would be a recommendation that I would support and would it be deferred?
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilman?
Thank you, Chair. I had a number of concerns about this proposal, similarly as staff outlined in the presentation. First, I don't think, if this is designed to address strip malls, I don't think from a land use perspective that is an inappropriate place to have a bar. A lot of them are very nice and, in integral parts of some communities. Second, if the issue here is to address perceived crime or nuisances, I think it's convincing that staff did not find any correlation between the presence of a bar, nightclub, and a strip mall and crime, and that removing it would not have any discernible effect. So I wonder what problem this is intended to solve. As well as I don't see any reason to treat shopping centers any different than mixed use or commercial services or anything like that. I wonder if staff might be able to tell us if this is designed to address a specific problem actor in Councilmember Stiles' district. Are there any bars or nightclubs in shopping center districts in Councilmember Stiles' district?
There was one, so the top 4 of the Metro Police data that we had, one of them was in Councilmember Stiles' district and in a strip shopping center.
Okay.
Just one, yeah.
But,
Oh,
but
yes.
not in shopping center
Yes.
zoning.
Yes.
Not in
It's
shopping
an
centers.
MUL.
Understood.
Mhm.
Okay, so that would not be affected by this proposal. Thank you. So I think we need to defer this by rule, but when it comes back, I think I'd be inclined to vote against this, both as it would not solve the problem it's intended to, and not good from a land use policy perspective as well.
Thank you, Councilman. Commissioner Leslie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering, what's the difference between this one and the previous one that was before us? Speaking to Commissioner Horton, sorry. I just don't see the difference. The other one, I'm just trying to see consistency, but I know that's not before us right now. And I think it's the motion to defer, and I'm with that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councilman?
I think this is distinguishable on a number of fronts from Councilmember Taylor's proposal that was considered earlier today. I think Councilmember Taylor's was a very tailored approach to a very specific area in light of the specific facts and circumstances of Buchanan Street. And far from prohibiting bars and nightclubs, just had some small rules and regulations to manage their operation. By contrast, this would apply across the entire county, and far from just regulating them would prohibit them entirely within shopping centers. So I think this is a kind of a sweeping and kind of draconian approach rather than a very targeted and nuanced one, such as Councilmember Taylor proposed.
Thank you, Councilman. Commissioner Smith, did you have a?
I did, and then he kept stealing it. I think I'll second that I feel like this is far too broad, and at the same time a little weird in targeting the zones in which it does. And that was kind of before I read the report and saw the data that had been collected. And it seems like 5 of the 142 bars are even located here, and they're not really causing a problem. So I think it's kind of a solution in search of a problem. So I think I want to mull it over, and I think that's why we defer it. And so that's good, but I think I'd probably inclined to disagree. And at the same time, it seems like a political thing. I think, I want to say, from a land use perspective, I don't think it makes that much sense. I think from a political perspective, if that's something that is wanted by the constituents and their elected officials, that's sort of their prerogative. That's it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Dundon.
Sorry, but just in the spirit of getting our opinions on the record, since we are going to be deferring it.
That's what it's for,
Come
right?
right back
Yes.
to us. I agree. I think you both said it extremely well, so I won't say that part again. I just think it's confusing on the record as to why this is such a broad and sweeping proposal. So, and I think the data actually just confirms that even more. So I don't see a land use reason for this. and I would be inclined to vote against it, but it's deferred right now.
Thank you, Commissioner Dunn. Commissioner Leslie?
But doesn't the overlay, isn't that applicable to the whole city, whether, I mean, how it's done? I mean, it applies to the countywide. I'm just trying to see the consistency of it. You know, this is to deter criminal activity, and the other one appeared to deter nuisance activity. And so I'm just trying to see how those mesh consistently, that both can be applied citywide. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Commissioner, and I want to make a brief comment. For me, is that, you know, we just talked a lot about nightclubs in residential areas, and I think that if there's a proper place to put nightclubs, it's in more of a commercial area like strip malls and that sort of thing. And so, to me, it doesn't make sense. That's just my 2 cents. And I think an appropriate area, because at nighttime in these strip malls, there's parking and there are no other customers generally in that area. And so from a land use policy and a use, I think it really makes sense to have these types of places in strip malls. And so that's in these commercial areas instead of residential, like Buchanan Street. And so I think it makes more sense to me personally. Any other discussion? We'll need a motion to defer. Councilman, you want to make a motion to?
I'd like to move to defer to the March 26, 2026 Planning Commission meeting, please.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? There's a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and it's deferred. All right, so that leads us to item 10.
All right, this is item 10 on the agenda. This is another text amendment, and the purpose of this text amendment is to permit detached accessory dwelling units on legally created residential lots with non-conforming lot area. The proposed ordinance would amend Title 17 of the Metro Code to revise certain sections of the DADU regulations. Currently, Metro Code defines DADUs as limited to lots meeting specific conditions. Bill 2025-1007 recently amended Title 17 to amend these regulations pertaining to DADUs and the DADU overlay. This amendment would allow for lots that exceed 3,750 square feet but do not meet the required area of zoning district and have been legally created to be permitted a DADU. The DADU must be accessory to a primary structure on the lot. There are a significant number of non-conforming but legally created lots currently existing. This amendment would allow for those legal lots to expand their housing options with a smaller detached unit. With research completed recently by the Bill 2025-1007, staff found that DADUs were currently permitted in the county. The number of permits issued is a relatively small percentage of the overall parcels, meaning that the estimated impact on infrastructure is minimal. Overall, the proposed changes broaden DADU eligibility, which is in line with the recommendations of the H&I study and the goals of Nashville Next. And staff does recommend deferral. Since this is a text amendment, it will need to be deferred.
Thank you, and we appreciate that. Commissioners, we'll open this item for public hearing. And Councilman Sean Parker is the applicant, and so is there anyone wishing to speak on item number 10? Seeing none and the councilman's not here, seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Dundon, you're next. See, I got everybody on this side.
I think this is in keeping with our effort to have new and expanded opportunities for housing. We've had the discussions about the DADUs previously before us, and if I'm understanding this right, this is to sort of allow for the DADUs on a particular type of parcel that it would not have been allowed under our previous rules. Is that right? Okay. then I think this is consistent with what we have discussed on these issues, and it feels, I'm inclined to vote yes, but I'd be happy to hear what the other commissioners say.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Commissioner Dunn, why don't you make a motion?
Sure. I move to defer this item to the March 26th, 2026 meeting.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? There's a second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and it's deferred. So we are on to items 12. We'll hear the presentations for 12A and 12B, discussion them together, and then.
All right, this is item 12A on the agenda. It's associated with the following item. And as a reminder, they'll be presented together and then require separate motions. The request is to permit a multifamily residential development. Staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions and disapprove without all conditions. The subject property is shown in gray here. It consists of one 2.02 acre parcel at the east side of Weber Road. It's zoned R10 and it's part of the Allen Estates Planned Unit Development, which is outlined in red. Adjacent properties are zoned RS 80 to the south and east with R10 to the west and north. The subject property contains a single-family dwelling unit, and surrounding uses include 1 and 2 family residential. The Allen Estates PUD was approved by council in 1996 and then amended or revised in 1997. The approved PUD was for 2 parcels totaling just under 5.5 acres. And since then, the parcels have been subdivided to create 3 parcels. The entirety of the PUD was permitted for a total of 45 units, which included 40 multifamily residential units, 2 two-family residential units, and then 1 single-family residential structure. The subject parcel was only permitted for a single-family residential use. And you can see here the whole PUD in its entirety, but then the subject parcel that we're looking at tonight is outlined in yellow. And just for reference, in 2024, council approved an amendment to the PUD on the parcel that's to the north, and the increase of units was just by 1 to 46 multifamily units. It did not include any changes on the subject parcel. There are 2 policies on this site. T3, Suburban Neighborhood Evolving, which is intended to create and enhance suburban residential neighborhoods with more housing choices, improve pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular connectivity. And then also Conservation, which is intended to preserve environmentally sensitive land features through protection and remediation. And on this site, it was determined that the conservation policy likely referenced a stream. However, that stream does not exist, and there are trees, though, on that southern property line that are proposed to be retained. The plan proposes 18 multifamily units in the form of townhomes attached in groups of 3. All units share access through a private drive, which is lined with surface parking. All front facades of units face internally toward the private drive. All units are proposed to have a maximum height of 30 feet and are either 1.5 stories or 2 stories. There are sidewalks internal to the site and connecting to Weber Road, and a condition has been added to meet local street requirements to satisfy that with the planting strip on Weber Road. And then just another view here of the landscaping plan. There are areas of tree preservation that are shown here in that green bubbled effect along the southern and western property lines. This area encompasses the majority of the proposed 20-foot landscape buffer, and no grading shall occur in these areas in order to preserve the existing tree canopy. The 20-foot landscape buffer extends to the northwestern border, and a 10-foot landscape buffer is proposed on the northern property line. With the units being oriented internally, staff determined a substantial landscaping buffer along Weber Road is appropriate. As such, a 10-foot buffer is also shown along Weber Road, the Weber Road frontage between the stormwater detention and sidewalk. A mix of 6-foot tall evergreen trees and other canopy trees are proposed to be planted to screen the development. And conditions have been added to also add, to just specify the types of trees and then add shrubs as well to contribute to the screening. The plan meets the goals of the policy as it adds to the diverse mix of housing types in the area with the addition of 18 townhomes. The area surrounding the subject property includes various housing types, including existing attached duplexes, single-family residential, and then the approved multifamily that we looked at to the north. The proposed density of approximately 9 units an acre is consistent with the policy guidance of moderate density and acts as a transition from the approximately 13 units an acre that's in that PUD amendment that we looked at to the north. And there are sidewalks that are shown internal to the site and then contributing to that overall network along Weber Road as well. And the plan is limiting the heights to, or is within the heights that are suggested by the policy of between 1 and 3 stories, with proposing 1.5 and 2-story townhomes. Both policies, the conservation policy and the neighborhood evolving policy, emphasize vegetation being retained to preserve mature vegetation and trees. And so in the proposed plan, there are landscape buffers on all property lines and tree preservation on the southern and western boundaries. The landscaping provides screening between the proposed development and existing development to the south and west and from Weber Road. Staff finds that the proposed SP is consistent with the land use policy, and then the cancellation of the portion of the PUD to the south is necessary for the development of the proposed SP. The staff's recommendation is to approve with conditions or disapprove without all conditions. And then council bill has not been filed yet, and conditions, and then I'll go ahead and present this one. It'll be pretty short. The request is to cancel a portion of the planned unit development. Staff's recommendation is to approve if the associated SP is approved and disapprove if the associated SP is not approved. The zoning on the site is R10, and within the Allen Estates PUD, outlined in red there, and the subject parcel is shown in gray. And then the portion that's proposed to be canceled is shown here in yellow. As previously mentioned, this portion of the PUD included 1 single-family residential structure. And staff's recommendation is to approve if the associated SP is approved and disapprove if the associated SP is not approved. Thank you.
Thank you, and commissioners, we'll open this item for public hearing, and is the applicant in the room? Come on up, you have 8 minutes, and you can save 2 of the 8 minutes for rebuttal.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Preston Ayer with Stone Ridge Engineering. I'm the civil engineer representing the project, and Selena did a great job hitting almost all the points I was going to tell you about. But a few of the other items that I'll go over. So we are proposing 18 units on this, density of 9 units per acre. We are proposing sidewalk improvements along the full frontage that we have on Weber Road. And I also want to mention that we did have extensive talks with NDOT about the location of this driveway to keep it away from the intersection that's up at the north. In addition, we will be providing stormwater measures on site to make sure that we treat both water quality and ensure that there's no additional runoff from the property than what is existing there now. The landscape buffers, we've had extensive talks as well to preserve the trees that are along the property line and use those existing trees as part of the landscape buffers that we have along all 3 sides and rear of the property, and as well, we are also adding a 10-foot landscape buffer behind the proposed sidewalk between the units and Weber Road. And we are in agreement with staff recommendations of approval and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, and we'll save 2 minutes for your rebuttal. Anyone wishing to speak on this item, come on up. And welcome.
Thank you. Is this thing working? Yes. I live on Weber Road. Oh, my name is Nancy Rubel. I live on Weber Road, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. Weber Road is a very short, winding street with only 9 family homes all on large lots. It's a narrow 2-lane road with no sidewalks and a drainage ditch on the west side of the street. We recently saw significant commercial development on the south end of our street where Old Lebanon Dirt Road feeds into Weber Road. Now we see a rezoning request for multi-family development on the north end of the street. My concern is not that this proposal is in isolation, but the cumulative impact on and the precedent that it sets. When development occurs at both ends of a very small residential street, it raises serious questions about whether the long-term character of the street is being changed incrementally without a clear plan. Now, my main concern is the infrastructure, the capacity. It's a concrete concern of mine. Looking at the layout of the development plan, it looks like the 2.2 acres of 5309 parcel of Weber Road is going to be built to a maximum capacity. The entrance and exit to this development is on Weber Road only. Has the city determined or looked at a traffic study whether a narrow 2-lane residential street without sidewalks can safely support the added traffic and additional service vehicles? The proposed 18 family units will triple the traffic demand in our street, not to mention the added traffic burden from the commercial development on the other end of the street that is now nearing completion. Our street has already become a favorite shortcut for many people, and driving way too fast on our small street. And I dare say that every single resident on our street has had their mailbox crashed into, some of us more than once. I fear that these new developments on both ends of our small 2 residential street will radically change our traffic safety and our traffic profile. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Anyone else wishing to speak? All right, seeing no one else wishing to speak, 2-minute rebuttal. Rebuttal? All right, seeing no one, the councilman's not here. Seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Councilman, it's your turn.
Thank you, Chair. I'm excited about this project, especially the preservation of existing trees and greenery, I think is encouraging, as well as the opportunity to welcome and introduce new housing types to this area, especially the missing middle housing typologies, which are sorely lacking and needed in our city. Encouraged that it fits policy, and I know this has been informed as well by robust public engagement by Councilmember Huffman in the district. So excited to support this project.
Thank you, Councilman. Any other discussion? Commissioner Dundon.
I guess I left that on, sorry. I just have a question about the sidewalks. I think I agree with the council member, but I know we went through a period in Nashville where there were a lot of sidewalks built to nowhere. And it looks like, maybe I'm completely wrong because I'm just looking at these images, but it looks like there really aren't any sidewalks. And I think we heard that from the person who spoke. So maybe you can just tell me, is this going to end up being a sidewalk that's like just the length of this development that connects to nothing? Or, I mean, what is the thinking behind the, and maybe it just comes from the developer, I'm not sure, but.
Yeah, I would say, so the PUD that was approved to the north has sidewalks that are included in that. So there's a sidewalk network that's kind of being formed in this area, and this plan also has sidewalks that are continuing along Weber Road. And so there's a growing sidewalk network that's coming, and it's an evolving policy, so it's coming along with the developments that are being proposed.
Okay, so long-term, it should be connecting to other, okay, that's helpful, thanks.
And wanted to add one thing, as you move north, past the PUD that was approved, there are some transit possibilities to the north, and there are existing sidewalks. And so it may be that that the sidewalk doesn't extend south in the near term, but moving to the north, there's a school in the area, there is transit, and so having even these segments that will connect is a good start.
Any other discussion? Commissioner Henley.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm glad the question was asked about the sidewalks, because I had a similar question, not necessarily looking, kind of going south on Weber Road, but actually kind of seeing that fork, kind of wondering how that infrastructure would develop out over time. I will agree. I think Selena did a great job presenting here. I think it's a really interesting configuration of the units. And one comment that we did hear during public comment talked about just vehicular traffic. I always think it's an important thing, and something I try to advise folks on is, being able to pull, having a singular curb cut for 18 units, I think is really important when you talk about the amount of intensity on a small street, because it allows for a lot of the queuing to take place inside of the site. So having a longer drive and pulling that to the southern portion allows for that. get traffic to get off of Andrew Jackson and then kind of actually turn in and be queued, as well as when people are leaving to be queued inside of the site. So I think it's oriented well. Again, echo the comments of the council member. I think it's great when we can have an opportunity to get some housing diversity and some density into areas of town. So just wanted to highlight those things and express my support.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Seeing none, Councilman, you want to make a motion on 12, these are 12A and 12B.
I would like to make a motion that we adopt staff recommendation to approve with conditions.
For 12A?
For 12A.
Thank you, Councilman. Appreciate that. That's a proper motion. And a second, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. 12A is adopted. Councilman, 12B?
I'd like to make a motion to approve, please.
That's a proper motion. Is there a second? Second, any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and 12B is adopted. So that leaves us to our last item, which is item 18.
All right, this is item 18 on the agenda tonight. This request is for a final plat to create 2 lots located on the south side of Lincoya Drive and west of Knobview Drive. And staff recommends to disapprove. This property has been zoned single-family residential since 1990 and within a 2-story residential overlay since 2023. The northern property currently contains a single-family land use, which is identified to be retained on proposed Lot 1. The southern parcel is currently vacant. Proposed is Lot 1 on the left side, and it is approximately 89,553 square feet, which is about 2.06 acres, while proposed Lot 2 on the right side has a lot size of 52,318 square feet, which is approximately 1.20 acres. The MPC has adopted subdivision regulations that include standards for specific transects. Since this site is located within the T3NM policy, the regulations found in Chapter 3 were used to evaluate this site. This is an infill subdivision and was reviewed against the compatibility requirements for the lot frontage and lot size. Lot 2 requires exceptions to the infill standards for lot frontage. The compatibility requirements standards for minimum lot frontage, as you've seen here, Lot 2 does not meet the standards for the lot frontage, therefore exceptions are required. In instances where the compatibility criteria is not met, other factors such as development pattern of the area, any unique geographic, topographic, and environmental factors can be considered in granting an exception to the requirements. The lot frontage, which the site is outlined in red, lots 1 and 2 are labeled in their approximate locations for reference. The proposed frontage for lot 2 is 80 feet. The parcels used for evaluating compatibility include the 5 adjacent parcels to the west and the 1 adjacent parcel to the east, which is outlined in green. The proposed frontage is less than the required amount of 115.5 feet per the subdivision regulations. Staff therefore evaluated a larger area by considering the parcels along Lincoya, outlined in blue, from the intersection of Knobview Drive to the east to the intersection with McGavick Pike to the west. This analysis included 16 parcels with a wide range of lot frontages sizes, the smallest frontages being 110 feet and the largest frontage being 225 feet. The proposed frontage for Lot 2 is approximately 80 feet, which is 30 feet less than the smallest frontage in the larger area of 110 feet. Although both lots comply with the lot size requirement, the proposed frontage at Lot 2 does not maintain consistency with the established development pattern of the existing lots. Given this information, staff finds the proposed Lot 2 frontage to be inconsistent with the larger area and that an exception to the compatibility criteria would be inappropriate. Therefore, staff does recommend to disapprove. Thank you.
Thank you. And so commissioners, we'll open this item for public hearing. Is the applicant in the room? Come on up. You have 8 minutes and you can save 2 of the 8 minutes for rebuttal.
Good evening. My name is Mason Harris, and I am one of the co-owners of 2805 and 2807 Lincoya Drive. I would like to begin by acknowledging the staff's concerns. We love the Lincoya Hills neighborhood, and we are not interested in changing it into something it's not. We purchased this home because this neighborhood has large lots, the character of the neighborhood, and with the knowledge that we were actually purchasing 2 registered addresses. We remain committed to maintaining the original character of this community. Both proposed lots significantly exceed the minimum lot size. There is no increase in density beyond what RS20 allows, and there are no new streets and no new additional infrastructure burdens. All reviewing agencies, our stormwater, fire, water services, and NDOT, all gave their approval recommendations if this were to go through. We understand that the commission has the authority to consider whether the subdivision can provide for harmonious development by evaluating the development pattern of the area and other relevant factors. We believe this meets that standard. While Lot 2 frontage is narrower, its lot area remains over 1 acre, substantially larger than the minimum and larger than other lots throughout our neighborhood. The form here remains the T3NM policy emphasizes maintain development pattern and form, and we respect that. This proposal does not introduce smaller infill lots, different housing types, or increased density. It remains single-family residential lots on significantly larger than zoning requires, as well as a larger than many other not lots in the neighborhood. As the policy states, these areas will experience some change over time, and we are taking the necessary steps to ensure that the existing character of the neighborhood remains intact. We are seeking a clean and logical configuration that allows both parcels, 2805 and 2807 Lincoya Drive, to function independently while remaining fully compliant with RS20 bulk standards and overlay height limits. We have received full support from our council member, Jeff Gregg, our immediate neighbors, and support from neighbors throughout the entire Lincoya Hills neighborhood. We take great pride in our home and in this neighborhood. We have invested significantly in maintaining and improving our property, and our intention is to preserve and add value, not detract from it. And we firmly believe this is the best use of the land. We respectfully request that the commission approve the proposed replat of 2805 and 2807 Lincoya Drive. And if approved, we will comply with all conditions provided by the staff. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll reserve 2 minutes for rebuttal. Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing none, the councilman's not here. I'm assuming no rebuttal. No rebuttal, I just want to make sure. All right, so no council members, so seeing no one else wishing to speak, I declare the public hearing closed. Commissioner Henley, you want to start us off?
Yes, Chair, happy to do so. I saw that this was disapproved in the staff report, and I appreciate the presentation. I'm one of those people that likes to find solutions, and I see this as an opportunity to unlock and create access to a potential future home, and I'm very big on that. One thing that I did notice just kind of in looking at the neighborhood and looking at the overview of things is the lot size is it's a large lot, and it's kind of like, is there another way to unlock it? It's kind of what I was thinking. It seems to be, have a unique challenge in its geometry, and I've spent too much time maybe in the past couple of weeks talking about different shaped lots and how, that can impact property owners. I know we've got kind of our base assessment of the immediate adjacent properties, but one thing that I saw from looking at our public comment is there is no opposition from the neighborhood. I think they also mentioned that there's no opposition been expressed and have support from the council member. So I don't know if it's whether it's a larger context area to look at, specifically if there's other large parcels that are like this or may have some similar type of challenges, or just a different approach to look at maybe the configuration of the lot size. I know you can't really change the frontage, and I know that's kind of been our guiding principle that was presented in the staff report, but I would like to know if there was a different strategy.
If I may, subdivisions have a much more sort of ministerial review for the planning department than, say, when we provide advice and recommendations to council on a policy where we can use kind of a broader kind of language to evaluate. And so we as staff try to maintain consistency in how we apply the standards, which are somewhat specific. But the commission is able to evaluate with more discretion if you can help sort of demonstrate some standards that you would want us to use. And so, for example, and Lisa, jump in here, I think if, we have a standing practice, and again, we think predictability in the subdivision regulations is important for our staff review, where we look at these parcels and we evaluate compatibility. If the commission were to take a wider lens and say to the staff, we would like for you to look more broadly at the lot pattern than what's here today, given the variability even in just this view, then the commission, I believe, could direct staff to do that in your role. And so if that is the sense of the commission, then your direction would tell us the angle and the lens with which to look at. We try to keep fairly narrow and predictable pathways to how we would evaluate a subdivision. But I think we could take a broader look, and, you certainly see narrower patterns at the far edge of the screen here, and certainly some variability on the street. Yes, Lisa.
Let me add one thing too. I do think that it's, like Lucy said, or like Director Kemp said, be formal, I know. I think that one of the things that is important to remember, and that you all as a commission adopted into the regulations with the compatibility requirements, is language that basically says that if a subdivision meets everything but doesn't meet compatibility, the frontage in the area, that you all can consider a broader area, can consider whether it can provide for harmonious development. What we as staff have done with the lots outlined in blue is we have taken a stab and said, here's some information that you could consider. This is what we're looking at from a larger area, but it is up to your discretion. And so like Lucy said, if you all want us to look at a larger area, if you want to, make some determinations, based on just the map that you can look at in front of you, that's also at your discretion. Our job is just to provide you with data, but it is your determination on whether or not you want to provide for an exception to that section.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I've kind of expressed my feelings and sentiment on it, and like I said, I'm looking at the map that is here, and I understand there are some, boundaries that are maybe to the southern side where you see a much smaller lot size, but then also knowing that the neighborhood has a lot of what I'll call the cul-de-sacs and corridor type of approach to it, so you get a lot of different typology. So I just think that there's some opportunity to look at it through that context.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Smith and then Commissioner Leslie.
I'll second Commissioner Henley. I guess to be clear, I think planning staff did exactly what they're supposed to in both the evaluation and the recommendation. And I think there is a reason why, we're here with some amount of latitude. I think when I read through this, it seemed like every kind of requirement was met, but the compatibility frontage, it's, 2.5 times the base zoning size, and bigger than even the compatibility, which is an average, which means that there are probably a significant number of quite smaller lots than even this. I felt, and also, you could probably improve the frontage, you have to tear down, existing home. And I don't really want us to be the motivator for that. All that said, I think I'm inclined to approve this request, given that, you know, a lot of what we're up here is trying to increase the housing stock. And I think that getting, you know, 90%, 95% of the way there, I think that when that's brought to us, this is a pretty good use of our powers of discretion to be able to say, you know, this makes sense. It's an addressed lot, or I guess it's an addressed, I guess it's not a lot. But I think it should be, I guess. So that's my feelings on it.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Leslie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, from what I understand, the reason why you're recommending to disapprove is because it's 30 feet short of what the average size or compatible lot is.
Correct.
And why was it drawn that way? Why was it divided like that? I mean, couldn't 30 feet be added to it? I don't know why the line was drawn like that, or I know there's, go ahead.
I mean, there's two parcels there. There's one lot on the frontage of Lincoya, and then there's a parcel behind it. And I don't know the history of how that exactly came to be, but there is, it's from what we can tell researching it, the parcel in the rear is not a buildable lot. If it were a buildable lot, they would just be able to go get another permit on that. But just the way that these parcels have evolved over the years has created this situation where the one that fronts the street doesn't have enough frontage to meet the subdivision requirements. So essentially, they're combining these two parcels into one and then subdividing it in a new configuration, and it just doesn't meet the regulations to have the amount of street frontage that's required.
So why couldn't they?
Sorry, and I don't think they can shift it and keep the existing home.
Okay.
So Savannah, I wonder if you might switch to an aerial view. I think you had one where you had drawn in the lines on there, that's helpful. So you can see the line sort of on the side of the existing residence. That's the lot line dividing the two. And so if you were to try to slide that over, you would end up running, it would be too close to the house, to the existing home. And so you could make them wider, but you would lose an existing home. And so they want to keep the existing home. Yeah.
Well, I agree with my colleague. I mean, at 30 feet doesn't seem to be a lot to make it, you know, to not approve it. So I'm inclined to respectfully not to go along with the staff's recommendation.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other discussion? Commissioner Smith, you want to make a motion?
I'll move to approve with all relevant conditions submitted by the various departments. Is that a proper motion? I saw that they had submitted recommendations, so I don't want to do
I think Lisa
clean
need-
approval. Let these guys get off too much.
Do you want to put some recitals in there about the findings?
Sure. Yes, I think that it would be important if you are going to approve that you approve it with conditions based on the ability to provide harmony for the larger area, considering a larger area.
So moved.
That's the proper motion. Is there a second? Second. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, and it's approved. And so, Commissioners, that finished. Thanks, guys, for coming down. We appreciate it. And so that finishes all the items on public hearing. We are in other business. Historic. Commissioner Smith.
No major update. I think one of these days we're going to have a Green Hills overlay. I thought that was this meeting, but I mean, I did promise to read the agenda before, but I guess that's in the upcoming. But other than that, no update for the commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Henley Parks.
Thank you, Chair. Glad to be on the agenda this time. No, all in jest. Just a quick update. I'm glad and happy to report that Greenways for Nashville, which is essentially a friends group for the Greenways network, is being very proactive intentional outreach, and even quite a bit of activation on our Greenways network, which I think is going to be fantastic for the city. So look out for information about that. And they're also doing listening sessions. So as I said, intentional about outreach, they're doing surveys and other things that will happen at the activation, but they're also creating a series of listening sessions. And I've been invited to attend a few of those. So I will plan to do so. I think there's a lot of excitement about our Greenway network, especially in the urban areas. A lot more stakeholders trying to find ways to support our network, specifically ways to connect it in different ways, and then also to champion those developments that have delivered on the commitment to Greenworks. So being able to Greenway, so to be able to recognize them, hear pros, cons, and things like that, I'm excited for the upcoming information on that front. I think it's an exciting part of that collaborative effort between the planning department and the parks department. So looking forward to that.
Thank you, Commissioner Henley. Executive committee, we don't, Director? There's no executive committee report. Well, we do have a work session. I figured the director would update us on that.
So we have an upcoming work session. It is an important one. I know how busy you are, so I'm grateful for any extra time you can offer the planning office. We're going to be focusing on our upcoming housing work program, and this is one where I want to make sure that the staff is in line with the commission's objectives. And so if you aren't able to attend, please let me know. I may beg for a one-on-one just to ensure that some deliverables that we are sending to council are in step with your expectations and the like. I try not to do that with your time, but I do feel like the housing work is so critical. And so if you would let us know, and Lisa and I will work with you offline. Otherwise, Lisa, the work session is on Monday or Wednesday?
Monday.
Monday.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Yes, and we'll be over in our office building on the ground level in the Development Services Center conference room. Kelly will send a reminder to everyone as well, but that's where it'll be located. We won't be in this room.
Excellent. Councilman, legislative update.
No updates from the council.
All right. Well, that concludes our business. And is there a motion to adjourn?
I have a motion that we include in the Oxford Dictionary the new word flappy. Glad and happy.
Out of order. There's a motion to adjourn. We're adjourned.